The stars blinked into existence above a world that had yet to find its name. Before the mountains touched the sky, before rivers carved through the earth, there was nothing. Yet, in that nothing, everything waited, a silent breath poised for the first sound, the first movement, the first act of creation. This is how humanity has always understood the beginning, through the stories we tell. Creation myths are more than tales of gods and beginnings, they are whispers of ancient hopes, fears, and questions. They are the heartbeats of civilizations trying to understand why the sun rises, why life exists, why we feel the ache of existence mixed with its profound beauty. Across cultures, these myths pulse with meaning, offering glimpses of how people, separated by oceans and deserts, sought to explain the same mysteries. Some speak of chaos, an endless void, a swirling, suffocating darkness that held everything yet seemed to be nothing. In Greek mythology, this chaos birthed Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. From the formless, a shape emerged, a world trembling with potential. Chaos wasn't just an absence, it was a womb. Creation, then, was not neat or easy. It was violent, raw, and wild. It clawed its way into being, as if the universe itself fought to be seen. Others speak of an egg so vast it could cradle the cosmos. In Chinese mythology, Pangu emerged from such an egg, cracking it open to create the heavens and the earth. The shell split, light rising to form the skies while the heavy remnants sank to form the ground. With each breath, step, and sacrifice of his body, Pangu shaped the world. The idea of an egg, a delicate vessel carrying infinite potential, is as fragile and powerful as life itself. It reminds us that even the smallest, most fragile beginnings can grow into something immeasurable. Then there are the myths of words. A divine utterance so potent that it summoned reality from nothingness. In the Abrahamic traditions, the Creator said, "Let there be light," and light obeyed. Words in these stories are not just sounds, they are commands, forces, living entities that shape the world. A single word carried the weight of mountains, the depth of oceans, and the fire of the stars. To speak was to create. To name was to give power. The act of speaking became the most sacred of gifts, one that still resonates in how we use words today, to build, to destroy, to inspire, to change. These stories are not bound by geography or time. Ancient Egypt spoke of Adam, a solitary god who rose from the chaotic waters of none, creating himself and the world through will alone. His breath, his tears, his words, all acts of creation. In West Africa, the Yoruba tell of Olodumare, who sent Obatala to shape the earth, carefully crafting mountains, valleys, and rivers with divine precision. These tales, though unique in their details, share a common truth: creation is never passive. It is active, deliberate, and alive. There is a humbling recognition in all these myths. Creation is never without cost. In Norse mythology, the giant Ymir was slain, and from his body came the world, his blood the rivers, his bones the mountains, his flesh the earth. Creation often demands sacrifice, a price paid so that existence can bloom. It reminds us that beauty often emerges from struggle, that something must end for something new to begin. Across these stories, certain images appear again and again, as if humanity's imagination speaks in shared symbols. The chaos, the egg, the divine word, they are not merely metaphors, but reflections of something fundamental in the human spirit. Chaos frightens us, yet it is necessary for order. The egg, fragile yet infinite, is a promise of growth. The word, simple yet immeasurably powerful, is a bridge between thought and reality. Each motif is a thread connecting us to each other, to our ancestors, and to the mysteries we still ponder. Creation myths are not just stories about gods, they are stories about us. They carry the echoes of our collective awe and longing. Whether it is the gods shaping the cosmos or the first humans molded from clay or corn, creation always begins with a yearning to understand. A need to bring light to darkness, form to formlessness, and meaning to chaos. In these myths, you can almost feel the pulse of life as it bursts forth. The stars ignite, rivers roar, the first breaths fill the air. The universe is not quiet, it sings, cries, and shouts into existence. Every culture has heard that song in its own way and told its own version of where it all began. The details may differ, but the feeling is the same, an overwhelming sense of wonder at the miracle of existence. The first sound was silence. The kind of silence that presses against your chest, filling every corner of existence. And then, out of the void, came a creator. Not just a figure, but a force, shaping what was unshaped, commanding light to shatter the dark, breathing life into what had none. They were not ordinary beings. They were gods who held the universe in their hands, who molded existence like clay, who poured their essence into the world until it pulsed with life. These creator deities are more than storytellers' inventions. They are reflections of everything humanity reveres and fears. They stand at the intersection of awe and authority, embodying the mysteries of life itself. Cultures across time have imagined these creators as the ultimate architects, those who wove the stars into the night sky and etched rivers into the earth. To speak of them is to speak of power so immense, it can hardly be contained in words. Some creators wield their power with a commanding stillness, like Ptah of ancient Egypt. He didn't need hands to shape the world, his mind was enough. He spoke the words, and creation unfolded, as effortless as a thought. The weight of his intellect carried the universe into existence. He was not loud or dramatic, his strength lay in quiet certainty, and the absolute assurance that his will alone could birth life. Others were makers of flesh and bone, bending their divine hands to craft humanity. The Yoruba deity Obatala knelt in the soft earth, molding human figures from clay, each curve and line shaped with care. His fingers pressed into the soil, leaving imprints that would become the first people. In every myth where God shapes humans from raw material, there's a sense of intimacy, a profound connection between creator and creation. It's a reminder that we are not distant from divinity but born from its touch. Yet not all creators are gentle. Some bring forth worlds through conflict, their power erupting like fire. Marduk, the Babylonian god, battled the chaos dragon Tiamat, splitting her body to form the heavens and the earth. His creation was an act of war, a triumph over destruction. Creation wasn't a quiet act, it was violent, ferocious, a testament to the strength required to tame chaos. In Marduk's story, creation and destruction are inseparable, two sides of the same coin. There is a beauty in how these gods mirror human emotion. They are creators, yes, but they are also dreamers, warriors, artists, and visionaries. Through their stories, cultures gave shape to their ideals. The gods were everything people aspired to be, wise like Adam, the Egyptian god who rose from nothingness to shape the world, brave like Odin, who sacrificed himself to uncover the ruins of power, nurturing like Gaia, who cradled the earth in her vast embrace. They were larger than life, yet they carried echoes of the human spirit. Their symbolism is as vast as the myths themselves. Take the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl, revered in Mesoamerican cultures. His image combines opposites, the skybound serpent, a creature that bridges heaven and earth. He was a creator who taught humanity, giving them knowledge and art. His duality is a reminder that creation isn't just physical, it's intellectual, cultural, and spiritual. Quetzalcoatl didn't just make the world, he made it meaningful. In the Norse tradition, Odin's act of creation came with sacrifice. He hung from the world tree, pierced and suffering, to gain the wisdom needed to shape the cosmos. His pain was not a weakness but a testament to the cost of creation. This echoes across myths, the idea that creation is an act of giving, of pouring oneself into the world until it takes on life. Some deities embody not just creation but the raw potential of life itself. Vishwakarma, the divine architect of Hindu mythology, built the cities of gods and mortals alike. His tools weren't just instruments, they were extensions of his divine will, shaping the physical and the cosmic with equal mastery. In every tool and design, there was purpose, a reminder that creation is not random but deliberate, every detail infused with intent. The myths remind us that power does not always come from chaos or strength. In some traditions, creation begins with a word, a thought, or a song. The Maori speak of Io, who sang the universe into existence. His voice carried the notes of creation, each sound birthing stars, oceans, and life. There is something humbling about this, the idea that something as simple as a song could hold the power to make the world. What ties these creators together is their boundless ability to imagine. They don't merely bring things into being, they envision what could be and make it so. Whether through hands or words, through battle or stillness, their actions echo with the same purpose, to transform emptiness into something alive. It's this act of transformation, this defiance of nothingness, that makes their stories timeless. To speak of these gods is to feel the enormity of their presence. They are not distant beings, they are etched into the wind that whispers through the trees, the sunlight that kisses the earth, the pulse of life that runs through every living thing. Their myths are not just tales of the past, they are reminders that creation is ongoing, a process that touches us all. For in the stories of the gods, we see the story of existence itself. In the beginning, there was no sound, no light, no stars to pierce the void. The universe was an endless stretch of nothingness, an ocean of silence where time itself held its breath. From this emptiness rose a single being, a god with no creator, a force with no origin but itself. Adam emerged, alone, from the primordial waters of none, the boundless chaos that surrounded everything yet gave shape to nothing. He was not born, he willed himself into existence, and in that act, the cosmos stirred for the first time. Adam stood upon the first mound of earth, the Binbin, rising like a solitary peak above the formless flood. His presence alone broke the stillness. He was everything, male and female, creator and creation, both the seed and the flowering. From his being came light and life, and his thoughts ignited the spark of a world yet to be formed. But creation was not simple. Adam, though powerful, was solitary in his existence. The weight of creation rested entirely upon him, and he carried it with unwavering resolve. From his own body, he brought forth Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. They were not born in the way mortals are born. Adam's breath, infused with his essence, became Shu. His spit, mingled with the chaos of none, became Tefnut. With them, duality emerged, air to separate the heavens and moisture to nourish the earth. They were his children, his first act of shaping the formless void into something alive. But the world was still incomplete. Shu and Tefnut wandered into the endless darkness, seeking order amidst chaos, and for a moment, Adam was alone once more. That solitude must have been unbearable, a god who had given part of himself to create yet still found himself in isolation. When Shu and Tefnut did not return, Adam's heart grew heavy with longing. He sent out his eye, a part of his very soul, to search for them in the formless void. The story of that eye is one of sorrow and strength. It traveled far, through shadows and silence, until it found Shu and Tefnut and guided them back to their father. When they returned, Adam's joy was boundless. He wept tears of relief, and where his tears touched the earth, life sprang forth. These tears became the first humans, fragile and full of potential, connected forever to the God who had shaped their existence with both longing and love. From Shu and Tefnut came Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky. Together, they formed the foundation of the world. But even creation is not without struggle. Geb and Nut were locked in a desperate embrace, sky and earth pressed together with no space for life between them. Adam, ever the architect, commanded Shu to separate them, lifting Nut into the heavens while Geb remained below. In their separation, space was made for the waters, the mountains, and the plants to grow. It was a painful act, a reminder that even the most beautiful creations often require sacrifice. Adam's role did not end with the physical world. He was not just a maker of gods and earth, he was the architect of order. Through his offspring, he created Ma'at, the divine principle of truth, balance, and harmony. Without Ma'at, the world would have collapsed back into chaos. Every breath of air, every beam of sunlight, and every heartbeat pulsed with the essence of the order he set in motion. The gods who emerged from Adam's creation, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Osiris, Isis, Seth, and Nephthys, formed the Heliopolitan Ennead, a divine family that governed life and death, order and chaos, justice and vengeance. Adam was their progenitor, their source. He was the sun that rose each day, crossing the sky to illuminate the world and sinking each night into the underworld, where he battled the forces of darkness to ensure the cycle of life continued. But Adam was not a distant creator. He was present in everything. The rising sun bore his name as Adam, a reminder of his power to renew and sustain life. The people of Egypt looked to him not just as a god, but as the embodiment of resilience, of a force that could emerge from nothing and shape the infinite. His story was their story, their belief that even in the darkest moments, creation and light could emerge. In Adam's essence, there was both a beginning and an end. The Egyptians believed that one day, the world would return to its original state of chaos, and Adam would remain, folding the universe back into himself as he once unfolded it. He was the Alpha and the Omega, the breath of the first moment and the silence of the last. His tale is not one of simplicity or ease, but of determination, of power that rises from solitude, and of a God who gave of himself so that the world could be. Adam's creation was not just the birth of the earth and heavens, it was the birth of meaning, of life imbued with purpose, a cosmos that reflected the will and heart of its creator. The universe was born from silence. From the stillness, a thought formed, quiet, deep, and full of power. There was no flash, no eruption, no noise. Just a spark of understanding that would carry the weight of all things. In that instant, Ta, the divine craftsman, breathed life into existence with nothing more than the power of his mind and voice. In the beginning, there was no chaos, no endless void stretching on forever. There was Ta, standing at the heart of Memphis, surrounded by the infinite silence of potential. His very essence was not one of raw power, like other gods, nor was he a god who relied on the hands of creation to shape the world. Ta was a god of thought, of will, of speech. He didn't need to move or struggle. He simply thought, and what he thought became real. His mind was the forge, and his words were the hammer, shaping the world with precision and grace. Ta was not like other gods who wielded weapons or manifested forms from the earth or sky. His power lay in the quietest of actions. He didn't need to lift a finger. In the temple of Ta, there was a profound understanding. He was the mind behind creation, the divine intellect that crafted the universe with the precision of a master artist. He did not labor, he simply willed. His thought alone gave birth to all things, his voice alone gave them shape. The idea of creation as an act of speech was revolutionary. Imagine that with just a word, an entire cosmos could be drawn into being. This was the power of Ta. As Ta stood within the temple, surrounded by the sacred walls of Memphis, he knew that his work was not one of hands and stone. His hands shaped only the thoughts in his mind, and from those thoughts, the world took form. He did not speak randomly, his words were carefully chosen, deliberate, as though each syllable carried the essence of life itself. And with each thought, he crafted not only the physical world but the laws that would govern it. The movement of stars, the breath of the wind, the flow of rivers, all these were the products of his will, as simple and profound as a dream coming into focus. In this world where gods were known for their grand gestures, Ta's power was something else entirely. It was subtle. His influence was a quiet undercurrent in the flow of existence. Where other gods shouted to be seen, Ta spoke only when necessary, his voice measured and deliberate. His creation was an act of design, not chaos. The world did not spring into being through clashing forces, but through a harmony that flowed from Ta's will. In the stories of Ta, we don't see violent battles or grand sacrifices. What we see instead is a divine intelligence at work, a God who created not just by force, but by the very act of thinking and speaking. He didn't bring about creation by molding it from clay, like other gods. He brought it into existence by speaking it into being, with the power of his thoughts. His will and his speech formed the patterns of the world, like a weaver who works in the quiet moments between breaths, creating something beautiful with each passing thought. Ta was not just a god of creation. He was a god of order. Every piece of the universe, every tree and river, every star in the sky, was placed there by Ta's divine logic. The very laws of nature, how things grew, how they moved, how they lived and died, were set in motion by the craftsman's mind. Nothing in creation was random. Everything had its place. Ptah's creations were born not just from his will, but from the perfect design of a god who understood the deep interconnectedness of all things. The beauty of Ptah's creation is that it was not rushed. It was not born of urgency. He did not create because he had to. He created because he could, and because it was the essence of his being. There was something deeply sacred in his ability to take his time, to allow his thoughts to form the shape of the world before they were spoken into existence. Creation was not a chaotic process for Ptah. It was a deliberate, thoughtful act, a patient unfolding of a grand plan. The power of Ptah lay in his ability to understand the intricate details of the world. He was the divine architect, and everything around him reflected his careful design. He knew that every tree needed its roots to grow, every star needed its place in the night sky. Each living thing had its purpose, and in that purpose, Ptah saw the beauty of the universe. He understood that the smallest detail mattered, that nothing was insignificant in the grand design of the world. The trees would not simply grow by accident. They would grow because Ptah's thoughts had willed it so, and because his words had shaped the very rules that governed their growth. Those of every other land were shaped by his divine will. It was Ptah who created the gods, speaking them into existence with his divine voice, weaving them into the fabric of the world as carefully as he wove the stars into the sky. He was the beginning of all things, the one who brought forth life, not through force, but through understanding. His creation was not born of power over others, but from a deep and abiding knowledge of how everything should be. His name, Ptah, echoed not just in the sacred halls of Memphis, but in the hearts of those who believed in him. He was more than a god, he was a symbol of wisdom, of the quiet, patient strength that underlies all creation. Where other gods were flashy and loud, Ptah was the silent master of design, the one whose thoughts shaped the world in ways that could not be seen but were felt in every living thing. In his silence, Ptah embodied the truth that creation does not need to shout. It does not need to be violent or explosive. Sometimes, the greatest power is the power to think, to dream, to speak the world into existence with nothing more than the quiet strength of a god's will. Ptah was not just the creator of the world, he was the creator of understanding, the divine craftsman who saw the beauty in every detail and gave it life through thought and speech. The world was a battlefield before it was a home. Darkness ruled. Chaos was the only force in existence, a wild, writhing serpent that devoured everything in its path. The air was thick with rage, the waters churned in an endless struggle, and the earth was a forgotten dream. There was no order, no structure, only the chaos of Tiamat, the primordial mother, whose fury threatened to swallow all. But from the depths of this unimaginable chaos, a hero rose, one whose very name would echo through the ages as a symbol of triumph over darkness. His name was Marduk. In the beginning, the gods themselves trembled before Tiamat's rage. She had given birth to monsters, creatures born of fury and fear, and she would stop at nothing to annihilate the world. The ancient gods cowered beneath her power, their unity broken by the terror she unleashed. It seemed as though creation itself was doomed to be devoured by the mother of all chaos. But in the hearts of the gods, a flicker of hope remained, a belief that even in the face of darkness, there could be light. That flicker took the form of a single god, Marduk, the young and mighty. Marduk stood tall, his heart filled with a fire that no monster, no force of nature, could ever extinguish. He was not like the others, not like the gods who hid from the storm. He looked into the face of chaos and saw not a threat, but a challenge. The forces that had once held the world in chaos would now be the building blocks of something new. It was his destiny to confront the darkness and shape the world from its remains. The other gods, desperate and trembling, turned to Marduk. They offered him the power of the heavens, the strength of the earth, and the forces of the deep. But Marduk did not need their gifts. He needed only his will. He stepped forward, unflinching, as the battle between order and chaos began to unfold. The clash between Marduk and Tiamat was nothing less than the very definition of cosmic warfare. Tiamat, the great sea dragon, her body writhing and snapping with fury, embodied the chaos that had held the world captive. Marduk, young yet unwavering, faced her not with fear, but with the force of his own vision. The gods watched in silent awe as Marduk took his weapons, his mighty bow, his net, and his immense courage, and faced the primal mother. The battle was brutal, a dance of destruction. Tiamat's jaws gaped wide, ready to consume him. Her body writhed, twisting through the sky like a storm of fury, but Marduk was undeterred. With every strike, he cut deeper into the heart of chaos, carving through the storm of her rage. His heart burned with purpose, for he knew that this was no ordinary fight. This was a battle for the very future of the world, for the creation of a world that could live in peace, a world where the forces of darkness would no longer rule. In the end, it was Marduk's resolve that overcame Tiamat's power. With a final, decisive strike, he split her in two. Her body, once the embodiment of chaos, was now the foundation of the world. From the chaos of her destruction, Marduk shaped the heavens and the earth. He divided her body, her flesh forming the sky, her blood filling the seas. What had once been a monstrous threat to creation became the very substance of life itself. The world was born from her death, shaped by Marduk's hand. But even in victory, Marduk knew that chaos was not fully vanquished. It would always lurk in the shadows, waiting to rise again. But through his triumph, he had shown the world that chaos could be defeated. Marduk did not just create the world, he created the very concept of order, the foundation upon which everything else would stand. The gods rejoiced, but it was Marduk's victory that would be remembered for centuries to come. Marduk's triumph was not just the defeat of a monster, it was the victory of order over disorder, of light over darkness, of life over death. In the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, Marduk's story is not just the tale of one god's strength, it is the tale of creation itself. The world did not come into being by chance, it was forged in battle, carved from the bones of chaos and shaped by the divine will of a hero who dared to face the void. The image of Marduk standing over the body of Tiamat, the chaos dragon defeated, is a moment frozen in time. It is a symbol of hope, of the idea that even in the darkest of times, even when the world feels on the edge of destruction, there is the possibility of renewal. It is a message that no matter how great the chaos, no matter how deep the darkness, there will always be those who rise to face it and carve a path for the future. Marduk's story is a reminder that creation is not a passive event. It is not something that simply happens, but something that must be fought for. It is the struggle between light and dark, order and chaos, that gives creation meaning. Without the battle, without the victory, there is no world to stand upon, no stars to light the sky, no earth to breathe life into. Even the gods themselves were not immune to Ta's creative power. The gods of Memphis, like. As Marduk stood victorious, with the world now under his rule, he did not simply rest on his laurels. He knew that the battle was not just a fight against an ancient dragon, it was the beginning of a new era. He had created the heavens and the earth, but now he had to ensure that they stayed in balance. The task was monumental, but Marduk, with his wisdom and strength, was up to the challenge. In the end, Marduk's victory over Tiamat was more than just a conquest, it was the foundation of everything that would come after. It was the creation of a world where light would always fight to banish the dark, where order would always seek to push back chaos. It was a world born from struggle, shaped by a God who understood that creation requires not just power, but purpose. The sky was endless, vast, and eternal. It hung above everything, untouched by the turmoil of the world below. Beneath its boundless expanse, life moved, human, animal, and God alike, driven by forces they could not always see or understand. But at the very top of it all, beyond the stars, beyond the winds, there was Anu. His presence was felt in every whisper of the wind and every breath of the earth. He was the sky itself, the firmament that protected, that held, that defined all life. He was a god not of the earth, but of the heavens, looking down upon his creation with an infinite gaze. Anu was no ordinary god. He was the father of the pantheon, the one who sat at the very peak of existence. Everything in the Sumerian world, all the gods who shaped the rivers and the mountains, the stars and the storms, came from his divine lineage. But he was not a god who ruled through violence or by decree. His power was quiet, yet absolute. Anu shaped the heavens with a whisper, and the world below moved in response to his silent command. It was in his nature to watch, to listen, and to give life to the gods who would walk the earth and bring the skies will into the world. But it was not only his silent power that marked Anu as different. He was also the creator of the divine progeny, the children who would carry his legacy and his authority. His influence wasn't just limited to the sky above, it was in every god who walked the earth. Each god born of Anu's lineage carried a part of him, a spark of his divine essence that would guide the world. Without Anu, there would be no gods to rule over the forces of nature, no gods to protect or destroy. Without him, the cosmos would be but an empty void. When Anu created the gods, he did not do so in a single act. He gave birth to them over time, in a steady, careful process. Each god had their place in the world, their role in the unfolding story of the universe. Enlil, the god of air and storms, would take charge of the winds. Enki, the god of wisdom and water, would shape the rivers and the seas. Ninhursag, the goddess of the earth, would create life from the soil. But all of them, in their individual roles, shared one thing in common, their connection to Anu. They were not separate from him, they were his bloodline, his children, each one born to carry out his will on earth. Anu's power was not something that could be directly seen or touched. It was in the foundation of everything. The heavens themselves, those great, unreachable stars, the winds that swept through the earth, the storms that crashed and raged, were manifestations of his will. To look at the sky, to feel the wind on your skin, was to feel Anu's presence. His power was not in objects or in grand displays of strength, but in the quiet, unyielding certainty that the sky was always there, holding everything together. But even gods needed purpose, and it was through his divine progeny that Anu's will was carried out on the earth. The world could not be ruled from the heavens alone. His children were the ones who made the god's presence known to the people. Through Enlil, the winds brought the rains to nourish the crops. Through Enki, wisdom flowed, bringing life to the rivers and fertility to the land. Through Ninhursag, life blossomed from the soil, and through Inanna, the goddess of love and war, the passions of the earth itself burned bright. Anu's children did not simply govern the world, they shaped it, each one creating and destroying in their own way, always following the divine blueprint their father had set in motion. And yet, in this great cosmic web, Anu was always at the center. He watched, but he did not intervene unless it was necessary. The gods were free to act within the world, to exercise their powers and fulfill their roles, but all that they did was guided by the threads Anu had woven into the very fabric of existence. His silence spoke louder than any command. His absence, his quiet observation, was the foundation of everything. Without him, nothing would be. His divine progeny could not exist without him, for it was from him that they had sprung. They were not independent, they were part of him, his eternal offspring, and their lives were a reflection of his will. It is said that Anu's eyes could see all things. He saw the hopes and dreams of humanity, their desires and their struggles, but he did not interfere. The world moved as it was meant to move, as Anu had created it to be. In this, he was both a father and a god of fate. He understood that creation could not exist without free will, without the ebb and flow of life. To intervene directly would be to break the balance. And so, he watched. His children carried out their duties with their own will, their own choices, but always in the shadow of their father's vision. For those who worshipped him, Anu was not a distant god. He was the quiet protector, the god who held the heavens above their heads, who gave life to the gods they revered, and who ruled over all creation. The Sumerians did not need to see Anu to know he was there. His power was in everything, the stars, the winds, the sky itself. To look up was to remember that they were never alone, that the sky was watching over them. But there was an inherent sadness in Anu's position. He was the father of gods, the one who set the cosmic order in motion, yet he remained untouchable. His children ruled, but he remained distant. The gods were free to interact with the world, to feel love, anger, and sorrow, but Anu himself was a silent observer. His role was not one of action, but of creation, a God who gave life to others, who set the world in motion, but never could fully immerse himself in it. And so, while Anu's children roamed the earth, their hearts full of passions and emotions, Anu's heart remained still, watching from the heavens. His love for the world was unconditional, but he could never fully partake in the world's struggles. His legacy, however, lived on through every god that walked the earth, and every wind that touched the skin of a Sumerian farmer, and every star that lit the night sky. There is a moment when everything is still, when the air is thick with the weight of what is to come. In that silence, a figure emerges, a god whose very essence pulses with the power of creation itself. His eyes are filled with the vastness of the universe, his presence both calming and overwhelming. This god is Brahma, the creator of all things. In the beginning, before the universe was shaped, before the stars and the earth had any form, Brahma sat alone in the infinite void. He was the only one there, the only one who existed in the pure, unbroken silence. From that silence, from the endless potential that hung in the air, Brahma began to think. He didn't need hands to create, nor did he need the tools that mortals might use. All that was needed was his mind, his will, and the sound of his voice. With the first thought, a spark was ignited. From that spark came the world. The earth, the oceans, the mountains, the skies, and Brahma created it all. He shaped the stars, placed them in their rightful places, and set the wheels of time in motion. The universe, with all its complexity and beauty, came into being because Brahma had willed it to. But Brahma is not alone in his role as creator. He is part of the Trimurti, the sacred trinity of Hinduism, which includes Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. Together, they form the cycle of existence, creation, preservation, and destruction, each god playing a crucial role in ensuring the balance of the universe. Brahma's role, however, is unique. He is the creator, the one who breathes life into the cosmos. Without Brahma, there would be no world to preserve, no destruction to bring about renewal. He is the first spark, the beginning of all things. But creation is not a single event, a one-time act. It is a continuous process, a rhythm that repeats over and over again. For Brahma, creation is not linear. It is cyclical, ever-turning, as inevitable as the passing of time. The universe is born, it flourishes, and then it must fade away, only to be born again in an endless loop. This is the nature of existence in Hinduism, the constant ebb and flow of creation and destruction. Brahma's work does not stop with the birth of the world. It is his responsibility to continue creating, to ensure that the universe remains in motion, even as it fades and renews itself. Every day for Brahma is a new beginning. Each cycle, or kalpa, is a lifetime for Brahma, a span of time that stretches beyond human comprehension. A single kalpa lasts for 4.32 billion years, and during this time, Brahma creates, sustains, and eventually allows the universe to dissolve back into the formless void. But even in this great span of time, Brahma does not stand alone. He is part of a cosmic dance, a rhythm that never ceases, one that has been going on since the beginning of time and will continue long after we are gone. The universe is born again and again, each time a reflection of Brahma's will, each time a new opportunity for life to flourish. At times, the process of creation feels like a delicate balance, a fragile thread woven into the fabric of existence. Brahma knows that creation is not easy, that it requires constant attention, constant effort. He knows that there will be obstacles, that the forces of darkness and chaos will rise, threatening to undo all that he has made. But Brahma's resolve is unyielding. He watches as the universe blooms into life, as the stars light the sky and the oceans form the boundaries of the world. He watches as beings of every kind take shape, humans, animals, gods, and he breathes life into each of them. His mind is a force of creativity that never tires, never wavers. And when the world begins to fade, when it begins to wither and die, Brahma steps back, allowing the inevitable to unfold. There is a power in the way Brahma creates, a power that is both gentle and overwhelming. It is a power that comes from within, from the deepest recesses of his being. With each thought, with each uttered word, a new world is born. And yet, as powerful as Brahma is, he does not act alone. He is connected to the other gods of the Trimurti, and together, they create a cycle of life that is both fragile and unbreakable. Vishnu, the preserver, ensures that the world continues to turn, that life continues to flourish. Shiva, the destroyer, brings about the end of each cycle so that a new one can begin. Each god has a role, and each god's power is necessary for the balance of the universe to remain intact. For Brahma, the act of creation is not something he does out of obligation. It is not a task to be completed, a job to be done. It is a calling, a responsibility that he accepts without hesitation. He is the father of the universe, the one who brings everything into being, and he does so with a deep sense of love and devotion. The world that he creates is not just a thing, each element of it is a part of him, a reflection of his divine essence. The trees, the animals, the people, they are all a part of Brahma's vision, a vision that is both awe-inspiring and humbling. But even as Brahma creates, there is an underlying sadness in the cyclical nature of existence. He knows that what is born must eventually die, that what is created will one day be destroyed. This is the nature of the universe, the eternal dance of creation, preservation, and destruction. Brahma's creation is never permanent. It must fade, must dissolve, must return to the void, so that it can be born again. And though this cycle is essential for the continuation of life, it is not without pain. Each time a world fades, Brahma watches it go with a sorrowful heart, knowing that what he has created will one day cease to be. Yet, he does not stop. He continues to create, knowing that it is necessary. Without creation, there would be nothing. Without life, there would be no story to tell. Brahma is the heartbeat of the universe, the pulse that keeps everything in motion. And in that heartbeat, there is both joy and sadness. There is the joy of creation, of breathing life into the world, and the sadness of knowing that every creation must eventually fade. Yet, Brahma continues. He creates again and again, for in every cycle of life, there is hope for something new, something beautiful. And in that hope, Brahma finds his purpose. In the heart of creation, where the foundations of the world were still taking shape, there was a God whose hands shaped not only the heavens and the earth, but also the very tools that would build them. Vishwakarma stood at the crossroads of material and cosmic realms, where thoughts turned into form and dreams were transformed into reality. He was not just a creator of objects, but the architect of worlds, a master craftsman whose skills reached beyond the limits of imagination. The mountains, the oceans, the skies, the very cities of the gods, they were all shaped by his hands, forged from his endless knowledge and his divine precision. Vishwakarma's work was not for the faint of heart. He did not simply build, he brought forth life, direction, and purpose. In every temple, in every weapon, in every bridge, there was a part of him, a reflection of his infinite creativity, a mark of his divine craftsmanship. To create was his calling, and his touch could turn even the most humble material into something magnificent, something that would stand the test of time. In the grand scheme of things, he was the quiet force behind every building, every creation, that stood tall, stretching toward the sky, or reaching deep into the earth. But Vishwakarma was not merely a creator of physical forms. His true genius lay in his ability to craft not only the material world, but also the unseen, the intangible, the very structure of the cosmos itself. The vastness of the universe, with its stars and planets, its laws and forces, all came from the mind and hands of Vishwakarma. He was the divine architect who understood that every creation, every object, had to serve a purpose. And so, just as he meticulously designed the palaces of gods and the chariots of warriors, he also designed the order of the heavens and the laws that governed all life. It is said that when the gods needed a home, a place to call their own, Vishwakarma built their temples, their palaces, vast and grand, reaching up to the heavens themselves. But these were not mere structures. Each temple was a place of connection, where the divine could meet the earthly, where the power of the gods could pour down upon the world and bless all who entered. These were places of purpose, filled with energy and intent, each one designed to magnify the presence of the gods and channel their energy into the world. Vishwakarma crafted not just buildings, but the very foundations upon which the divine could manifest. He was the creator of the weapons that the gods wielded, blazing swords that could cut through mountains, shields that could stop the most terrible of storms, and arrows that never missed their mark. These were not weapons of destruction, but instruments of cosmic order. Each weapon was a reflection of Vishwakarma's understanding of balance and power. They were created to restore harmony, to bring justice, and to protect the world from forces that threatened to tear it apart. Through these creations, Vishwakarma ensured that the gods could carry out their divine duties, and that they could defend the world from darkness. Even more than these material creations, Vishwakarma understood the importance of space, of structure, of direction. The cosmos was not a random collection of stars and planets. It was a perfectly organized system, each part working in harmony with the others. Vishwakarma was the mind behind it all, the one who understood that without proper structure, there could be no balance, no life. He knew that the universe had to be crafted with care, that the stars had to be placed in the right positions, that the earth needed its balance of land and water, of mountains and oceans, to allow life to flourish. There was something almost sacred about Vishwakarma's creations. They were not just objects or buildings, they were the physical manifestations of divine thought. Each piece he crafted was infused with meaning, with purpose. When a weapon was forged, it wasn't simply made to fight, it was made to protect. When a temple was built, it wasn't just a place for worship, it was a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a space where the energy of the gods could flow freely. Vishwakarma's creations were not just forms, they were extensions of his mind, his divine wisdom, his understanding of the delicate balance between creation and destruction. But despite his importance in the divine hierarchy, Vishwakarma was often a quiet figure. He did not seek the spotlight, nor did he desire adoration. His work was his devotion, and in that devotion, he found fulfillment. His joy came not from recognition, but from the act of creating itself, from the endless flow of ideas that he brought into reality. In this way, he was a god who lived for the process, not the outcome. Every new creation was a gift, not to be celebrated, but to be appreciated in the way it worked in the world, in the way it served the greater good. In his heart, Vishwakarma understood that creation was not a singular act, it was a continuous process. Each world, each object, each being was a part of an eternal flow, a cycle that could never be broken. And so, he worked tirelessly, shaping and reshaping, crafting and perfecting, knowing that the work would never be complete. There would always be something more to create, something more to perfect. And that was the nature of his existence, to build, to craft, to shape the world, never resting, always moving forward. In the quiet of the night, when all seemed still, it was Vishwakarma who moved behind the scenes, unseen by mortals and gods alike, ensuring that the cosmic order remained intact. His hands were the hands that shaped the world, his mind the mind that guided its flow. Every corner of the earth, every corner of the heavens, was touched by his divine touch, shaped by his vision. It was a silent, constant work, creating, organizing, building, but without it, nothing would exist as it did. Without Vishwakarma, the universe would be a place without form, without purpose, without direction. His creations were not merely objects, they were the threads that wove the very fabric of existence. In every city, in every temple, in every weapon, in every star, there was Vishwakarma. The divine architect, the master craftsman, the silent force behind all that was built, all that was created. In the beginning, there was nothing but chaos, an endless, swirling emptiness that stretched out into infinity. It was not quiet. It was not peaceful. It was a storm of confusion and darkness, a place where nothing had form or meaning. There were no stars, no earth, no sky, just the raw, untamed forces of the void. In the midst of this chaotic expanse, something unimaginable began to stir. From the very heart of this vast, unformed space, a presence emerged. She was not a god yet, but something older, something more primal. Her name was Gaia. Gaia was the embodiment of the earth itself, a being as ancient as the cosmos. But she was not alone in the chaos. With her came other primordial deities, each one a force of nature in its rawest, purest form. From chaos, the very concept of disorder, sprang the first beings, Phans, Erebus, Nyx, and more, each representing a fragment of the emptiness that had once ruled the universe. They were not gods as mortals understood them, but forces, essential and fundamental. These beings had no beginning and no end, they simply were. In the silence of that moment, as the dust of creation began to settle, Gaia knew something had to change. Chaos, with all its wild energy, could not go on forever. There had to be order. There had to be structure. And so, from the depths of her being, she gave birth to the first solid things, the sky, the sea, the land, and began to shape them with her own hands, crafting mountains and valleys, rivers and forests. Gaia was the mother of everything, but her task was not just to create life. It was to bring form to that which had once been shapeless. But the earth was not enough. Something more was needed, a force to hold the world together, to make sense of all that had been created. From Gaia's union with Uranus, the sky, came the first gods. These gods were powerful, beings who would shape the universe and bring an end to the chaos. Their names echoed across time: Cronus, Rhea, and others, each of them destined to play their part in a story that would transform the universe forever. At first, these gods were not rulers, but rather children of the earth, born of Gaia's love for her creation. But as the world began to take shape, so too did the desire for power. It was in this quiet, natural progression that order began to emerge from the chaos. The primordial deities, each more elemental than the last, began to take on their roles in the grand dance of existence. The forces of creation and destruction wove together, creating patterns in the universe, each one more intricate than the last. Chaos, in its own way, understood that it could not last forever. It was not a force of destruction, but a force of potential. It was the raw material from which everything else was made. Without chaos, there would be no creation, no structure. It was the chaos that allowed Gaia to give birth to the solid world, the mountains, the seas. And in the same way, it was the order that came from reunion with Uranus that gave the cosmos its sense of direction. Without that first struggle, the first conflict, nothing could have moved forward. For order to emerge, chaos had to be tamed. It had to be shaped and channeled. But the gods that were born from Gaia and Uranus were not just passive figures in the cosmos. They were active forces, powerful and driven by their own desires. Cronus, the youngest of these gods, was destined to rise up and challenge his father, Uranus. In a violent act that would change the course of the universe, Cronus overthrew Uranus, cutting off his father's power and taking control of the world. The earth shook as the heavens fell. The sky and the land were forever altered by that single, fateful act. But the struggle did not end with the overthrow of Uranus. For Cronus, like his father before him, would eventually be overthrown by his own children. It was a cycle that never ceased, the rise and fall of gods, of powers, of empires. In this cosmic struggle, the importance of chaos becomes clear. It is the birthplace of all things, but it is also the reminder that nothing is ever truly fixed. Creation is constant, and with it comes destruction. Each new cycle of the gods brings with it a sense of inevitable change. Order, once brought into being, must always make way for new forces, new challenges, new creations. The gods themselves, for all their power, are subject to the same cycles of birth, death, and rebirth that govern the universe. Gaia, for all her beauty, for all her strength, is not a god of destruction. She is the nurturer, the mother of all things. She created life from the dust of chaos, but she also knows that life must change, must grow. The world she shaped is not a static thing, it is a living, breathing entity, constantly shifting and evolving. She watches as her children, her gods, take up their roles in the world, as they battle for control, as they build and destroy, each playing their part in the endless cycle. There is something deeply emotional in this story of creation and destruction. For in every act of creation, there is loss. For every order that emerges from chaos, there is a part of the old world that must be left behind. The gods rise, they fall, and with each rise and fall, the world changes. The earth itself carries the weight of these transformations, these cosmic shifts. It is Gaia, after all, who watches as the world she birthed changes again and again, never static, never still. Her heart beats with the rhythm of the universe, and each new cycle, each new birth, carries a piece of her soul. And so, as Gaia looks over the world she has shaped, she knows that her work is never truly done. The chaos that gave birth to everything still lingers, still calls for attention, still demands to be reshaped and refocused. The gods may come and go, rise and fall, but the cycle continues. Creation, destruction, rebirth, it is a dance that never ends. And through it all, the earth remains. Gaia remains. In the heart of the cosmos, she is the steady force, the one who watches as everything else changes, as everything else is shaped. Through her, the order that emerged from the chaos continues to unfold, and it is this unfolding that defines the very nature of life itself. It was the moment before dawn, and the world was blanketed in darkness. Nothing stirred, save the wind whispering through the trees. The earth was cold, and the heavens were silent. It was a time when the gods walked among mortals, when the ancient forces of the universe still shaped the world. But there was something missing. Humanity, fragile and unaware of its destiny, walked in the shadow of the divine, yet they had no fire to light their way, no warmth to guard them from the endless cold of the night. In the heights of Mount Olympus, the gods watched from their thrones, comfortable in their eternal power. They were beings of incredible might, yet their hearts were hardened. They saw humans as mere playthings, creatures who crawled upon the earth with no more purpose than to survive. They had no love for them, no desire to share their divine gifts. But one god, Prometheus, saw something different. He saw something within humanity that the others could not. He saw potential, longing, and the will to rise. The gods, too proud to notice it, had no idea of the spark that lay within their creations. Prometheus, whose name meant forethought, had long known that the humans needed something more. They were born from the earth, like the animals and plants, but they were different. They had hearts that yearned for knowledge, minds that could dream and question. But without fire, how could they ever grow? Without warmth, without light, how could they ever reach their potential? So, Prometheus, unlike the other gods, had a plan, a bold plan. He decided to defy the very will of the gods to give humans what they had been denied, fire. The gods had kept it hidden from them, locked away in the highest peaks, believing that this gift would make them too powerful, too dangerous. But Prometheus could not bear to see them suffer in the cold, stumbling through the darkness, unaware of their own greatness. And so, he did the unthinkable. One quiet night, under the cover of darkness, Prometheus descended from the heavens and traveled to the place where the gods kept their flame. The mountain was guarded, of course. But for all their power, the gods had not accounted for Prometheus's cunning. With quiet steps and a heart full of purpose, he stole the sacred fire. He cradled the flame carefully in his hands, like a delicate treasure, and began his journey down to the earth. The fire flickered and danced in his grasp, a light that would change everything. The journey was long, and Prometheus knew that the gods would find out soon enough. He had defied them, and for that, he would pay a price. But as he walked through the cold, empty spaces, he thought of the humans waiting below. He thought of the warmth the fire would bring, how it would light their world, spark their imagination, and give them a hope they had never known before. The fire would be their gift, and they would build with it. It would not only warm their homes, but ignite their minds, filling them with the possibilities of creation. It would allow them to craft, to build, to dream. When Prometheus reached the earth, he placed the flame in a hollow of an ancient oak tree. The humans, struggling and lost in their endless night, would find it there. And when they did, their lives would be forever changed. He knew that once they discovered fire, their world would no longer be one of darkness and despair. They would learn to cook their food, to protect themselves from the beasts, to craft tools, to build cities. Fire would be the spark that ignited the future, that turned their quiet existence into something grand. But no good deed goes unpunished. Before long, the gods discovered what Prometheus had done. Zeus, the king of the gods, was furious. How dare Prometheus, a mere titan, defy their will? He had given fire to humans, an act that could not be forgiven. In his wrath, Zeus sentenced Prometheus to an eternity of suffering. He was bound to a mountain, his body chained to a rock, while an eagle came every day to feast on his liver. The pain was unimaginable, but it was not enough to break Prometheus's spirit. He had given the gift of fire, and he knew that it would forever change the world. As he hung there, suffering, Prometheus never regretted his decision. Every flame that flickered in the homes of humans, every spark that lit up the night, was a reminder of his choice. He had given them fire, not just the flame that burned, but the fire of ambition, of creation, of hope. And in return, he had suffered. But that suffering was nothing compared to the joy he felt knowing that humanity had finally been given a chance to thrive. They had the fire now. They could build their futures. And as the gods looked down, still angry and vengeful, they began to realize something they had never considered: the humans were no longer helpless. They had fire, yes, but they also had courage. They had ingenuity. They had the ability to change their world, to shape it, to mold it into something more. It was fire that had unlocked that potential, that had given them the power to rise up from the dust and stand as equals to the gods. They had been given the gift of creation. They could build, they could dream, they could shape the future. Prometheus, even in his torment, knew he had made the right choice. He had given humanity more than just a tool. He had given them a future. Every fire, every spark, was a promise of what they could become. And though the gods may have been angry, though the heavens may have raged, the earth below was filled with the light of fire, of possibility, of life. It was a light that could never be extinguished. The first light of day breaks across the horizon, the soft rays of the sun stretching across the land as the world wakes up. The air is cool and fresh, but there's an unmistakable energy, an undercurrent of life that pulses beneath the earth, and the soil, the rivers, and the mountains. All of this was shaped by forces far beyond the reach of human hands. But, like a silent pulse, those forces are there, always moving, always turning, like a great wheel. And at the heart of this ancient dance, two figures stand, Janus and Tellus. Janus, the god of beginnings, sits at the threshold of time. His presence is everywhere, in every moment of change. He looks both forward and back, eternally balanced between the past and the future. The ancient Romans saw him not just as a god, but as a bridge, connecting what was and what would be. In the quiet space between moments, Janus watches, waits, and in his eyes is the weight of every beginning. When the Romans prayed to him, they understood that they were asking for more than just good fortune or success. They were asking for a new door to open, a new possibility to unfold. In that moment, as the door of a new year creaked open, or the threshold of a new life was crossed, they whispered his name, seeking his blessing. But Janus was not just a god of human life. He was also a god of the cosmos. His presence shaped the very world, guiding the forces that created the earth and its cycles. His face, with one side old and weathered, the other young and hopeful, was the embodiment of the eternal passage of time. Every new beginning, every new cycle, was his gift to the world. And yet, there was an underlying sadness in his gaze, a quiet knowledge that every beginning also meant an end. To create, to bring something new into the world, always meant the old must be left behind. Janus understood that better than anyone, for he held both halves of the story. In the shadow of Janus stands Tellus, the Earth Mother. She is the embodiment of the land itself, the nourishing soil, the rivers that flow with life, the trees that stretch their branches to the sky. Tellus is the giver of life, the source of everything that grows. She is the calm presence that nurtures the earth, allowing it to bloom with lush fields, towering forests, and vibrant flowers. Her arms are wide, embracing the world she created. Her skin is the fertile soil that cradles the roots of all things, her breath the wind that whispers through the leaves. Tellus is the quiet, steadfast force that holds everything together. While Janus marks the passing of time, Tellus remains constant. She is the place where life begins and ends, where the seeds are planted, and where the harvest is gathered. She is the endless cycle of growth and decay, the constant rhythm of life's journey. Tellus does not rush. Her love is deep, patient, and unwavering. She gives without question, never asking for anything in return. The very earth beneath our feet is her gift, the foundation on which everything stands. But the stories of Janus and Tellus are not just stories of power or creation, they are stories of balance. Janus, with his gaze fixed on both the past and the future, understands the delicate nature of transition. He knows that every creation, every new moment, carries within it the seed of destruction, the promise of something else to come. And Tellus, in her quiet wisdom, knows that the earth cannot be rushed. Life must grow slowly, deeply, from the soil, nurtured by the sun and rain. Yet, even she knows that the earth, like the rest of the world, is not immune to change. When Janus opened the door to the new year, the world took a breath. With that breath, it shifted ever so slightly, just as it always had, just as it always would. The earth, with all its life and beauty, continued to turn, but something within it had changed. Tellus felt it in the deepest parts of her being. Something was growing, something was shifting in the soil. The seeds of a new age had been planted. There was no escaping it. The earth would change. Janus, standing silently in the doorway of time, felt the weight of this knowledge. He knew that the moment had come. The forces of creation, the very heart of the earth, were beginning a new cycle. He watched, as always, with both hope and resignation. He knew that every cycle had its end, just as every beginning had its start. But even in this, there was beauty. For without one, there could be no other. The earth, with all its wonder, could not remain static. Life had to move forward, and with it, the forces of creation. It is in these quiet, eternal moments, the soft turnings of the world beneath our feet, that the Romans found meaning in the gods. They looked to Janus, standing at the crossroads of time, and felt the weight of possibility in every moment. They saw the vastness of creation in Tellus, whose fertile embrace cradled them all. These gods were not distant figures of myth, they were the pulse of the world itself. They were the reason the world turned, the reason the seasons shifted, the reason the seeds sprouted from the earth. Janus and Tellus embodied the very forces that created the world. One shaped time, the other shaped the earth. Together, they held the universe in balance, each offering a gift, the gift of new beginnings, and the gift of life itself. When the Romans stood at the threshold of a new chapter, they understood that the gods were not just stories. They were the heartbeat of the world, forever entwined with the land beneath their feet. The earth, the sun, the wind, the fire, all of these were gifts that were born of creation, crafted by the hands of the divine. And through it all, Janus and Tellus stood, watching over the world, knowing that creation would always continue, in an endless, eternal dance. The sun sinks low in the sky, casting a golden light across the earth. The winds stir the trees, and there's an electric feeling in the air. There's a legend, whispered across generations, that when the earth was young, there was a being who stood as a bridge between worlds. This being, with the elegance of a serpent and the grandeur of a bird, flew across the heavens with wings made of feathers that shimmered like rainbows. The people watched in awe as the feathered serpent soared above them. This was Kukulkan, known to others as Quetzalcoatl, the god who was not just a figure of the past, but an eternal presence, woven into the fabric of time itself. Kukulkan was not a god of destruction or war. He was a god of life and creation, bringing harmony where there was chaos. He spoke not in words, but in the very breath of the earth, in the rhythm of the winds, and the movement of the stars. His wings, though grand and majestic, were not meant to strike fear, but to lift humanity to greater heights, to bring knowledge, and to share the divine gift of life itself. His eyes held the mysteries of the universe, yet in them, there was compassion, a deep understanding of the delicate balance that made the world turn. He was not simply a creator, he was the catalyst, the spark that ignited the fire of existence. It is said that the feathered serpent descended from the heavens and walked upon the earth in human form, bringing with him the gifts of knowledge. He showed the people how to build their homes, how to plant the seeds of life into the soil, how to shape the earth and the sky. With every word he spoke, a new understanding bloomed. He taught them the stars, the calendar, the sacred geometry of the world around them. But his role in creation was far deeper than that. Kukulkan's presence was woven into the very threads of existence, for he was both the creator and the creation itself. In his divine wisdom, he crafted humanity not from clay or stone, but from the very essence of the cosmos. His breath became the winds, his body the earth beneath their feet. When he shaped the world, he did not see himself as separate from it. He was part of the mountains, the rivers, the plants, the animals. He was in everything, and everything was in him. And yet, with all of his greatness, Kukulkan was not above the struggles of life. He understood the pain and suffering of the world because he, too, felt it. His creation was not perfect, and the imperfections of humanity mirrored his own journey. His task was not only to bring life into existence, but to guide it, to nurture it, to ensure it did not fall into ruin. Like the serpent whose body slithered through the earth, he moved silently among the people, watching over them, shaping their fates with each passing breath. Kukulkan's hands held the power to create, but they also held the power to destroy. It is said that in his anger, he could turn his great wings into storms that could ravage the earth. His breath, once gentle and calming, could become a fierce wind, shaking the very mountains. But even in this power, there was love. For in his destruction, there was rebirth. He could tear down the old so that the new could emerge. The serpent's scales would shed, and from that shedding would come new life, new possibilities. Without the end of one cycle, there could be no beginning of another. And so, Kukulkan's wrath was always tempered by the hope of what would come next. As humanity flourished under his guidance, the people began to understand that their connection to the world was not one of separation but of unity. They were all part of the same great web of life, each strand touched by Kukulkan's influence. They saw themselves reflected in the sun, the moon, the stars, and the earth. All were born from the same source, all were held together by the same force. The knowledge that Kukulkan gave them was not just about how to live, but how to live in harmony with the world, to honor the sacredness of creation in every moment. But the feathered serpent story was not one of endless peace. Like all myths, it had its twists and turns, its moments of darkness. There were times when Kukulkan's light would fade, when the world would fall into disarray. But in these moments of struggle, the people remembered the lessons Kukulkan had given them, the power of knowledge, the importance of balance, and the understanding that even in chaos, there is creation. They knew that Kukulkan's spirit lived on, not just in the divine but in the earth itself, in the winds, in the stars. And when the storms would come, they would look to the sky, feeling the faintest stirring of his wings, and know that he had not abandoned them. He was always there, shaping their world, breathing life into the chaos. Kukulkan was not just a god of creation, he was the living embodiment of it. His wings touched every corner of the earth, and his breath filled the very air they breathed. From the moment of creation, when the cosmos began its slow unfolding, to the present day, his influence was never far from their minds. His image appeared in the sacred temples, in the carvings on the stone walls, and the hearts of those who remembered the stories passed down through generations. In every whisper of the wind, in every crack of thunder, in the rustling of leaves, there was Kukulkan. His voice was everywhere, his spirit forever etched into the fabric of life. And in that quiet moment when the earth paused to catch its breath, when the air felt thick with the pulse of creation, it was said that you could hear him once again, speaking in the language of the universe, reminding humanity that they were never alone. Kukulkan's gift to the people was not just life, but the understanding that creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin. The serpent's wings brought warmth, light, and growth, but also reminded the people that everything is temporary, and that change is the very nature of existence. He taught them that their strength lay not in the absence of struggle, but in their ability to adapt, to grow, and to continue on the path laid out before them, no matter what. The feathered serpent story, in all its beauty and tragedy, is a reminder that creation is not a simple, one-time act. It is an ongoing process, an endless dance of birth, growth, decay, and rebirth. It is the very essence of life itself, and Kukulkan, with his wings spread wide, was both its guardian and its guide. The vast Andean sky stretched endlessly, its cerulean expanse broken only by the jagged peaks of mountains so high they seemed to pierce the heavens themselves. It was in this sacred landscape, where the earth kissed the sky, that the story of Viracocha began, a god who walked among mortals, shrouded in both mystery and majesty. His name carried weight, whispered with reverence by those who gazed at the stars and felt his presence in the silence of the mountains. Viracocha was not born of the heavens, yet he commanded their power. He did not rise from the earth, yet the mountains bowed to him. He emerged from the primordial waters of Lake Titicaca, the still, reflective depths trembling as he stepped forth. The world he entered was a desolate chaos, a realm where nothing yet had purpose, where the light did not know how to shine and the dark did not know how to rest. It was Viracocha who gave it meaning, who wove the threads of existence into the grand tapestry of life. With his first breath, he brought light to the world, splitting the dark and giving shape to the formless. With his second, he created the sky and the earth, molding the mountains with his hands, smoothing the valleys, and carving rivers where once there had been silence. His voice was the wind, carrying his will across the empty lands. He shaped the sun, the moon, and the stars, placing them in the heavens with precision, each celestial body a piece of a grand puzzle. Viracocha's creation was not without struggle. The first beings he brought forth from the earth were clumsy, unformed creatures of stone who failed to grasp the gifts he offered. They stumbled through the world, blind to its beauty, deaf to its songs. They were his first children, and yet they were a reminder that even a god's hand could falter. He saw their imperfections and, with a heavy heart, destroyed them, casting them back into the stone from which they had come. But their failure was not the end, it was a beginning. From the dust and the rubble, Viracocha fashioned humanity, breathing life into clay figures with care. This time, he poured not just his strength into them but also his sorrow, his hope, his love. These new beings, born of the earth and cradled by the sky, carried within them a spark of divinity. They were flawed but beautiful, fragile yet enduring. He taught them how to live, showing them the rhythms of the seasons, the secrets of planting and harvesting, the importance of honoring the world around them. He imbued them with knowledge, with the ability to look beyond themselves and see the interconnected web of life. But Viracocha was not content to remain in one place, ruling from afar like other gods. He walked among his creations, traveling the vast expanse of the Andes, his footsteps shaping the land itself. Wherever he went, life flourished. Rivers sprang from the earth where he rested, and flowers bloomed in his wake. The people who encountered him described a figure cloaked in white, his eyes burning with a wisdom that seemed to pierce their very souls. He carried a staff, not as a weapon, but as a symbol of his guidance, a reminder that even the mightiest need support. Viracocha's journey was not just about creation but also about compassion. He listened to the fears of the people, their hopes, and their dreams. He taught them not only how to survive, but how to thrive, how to see beauty even in hardship. When they asked why he cared so deeply, why he did not remain aloof like other gods, he simply smiled. For he saw himself in them, their flaws, their struggles, their capacity for greatness despite their imperfections. To him, they were not just his creations, they were his family. But even gods must face trials. There came a time when the people grew restless, forgetting the lessons he had taught. They became consumed by greed, turning on one another, defiling the world he had so lovingly shaped. Viracocha, filled with sorrow, called forth a great flood, washing away the corruption. It was not an act of anger but one of sorrowful necessity. From the waters, he brought forth a new generation, a people who would remember the balance between creation and respect, between power and humility. Though his presence on the earth was fleeting, Viracocha's spirit endured. The mountains bore his strength, the rivers his wisdom, the skies his endless love. The people told stories of his journey, of how he disappeared into the western horizon, walking across the ocean as if it were solid ground. They said he would return when the world needed him most, that his work was not finished, that the God who gave everything would one day bring hope again. In the Andean winds, you can still hear his voice, soft and gentle, a reminder of the God who walked the earth, who loved the world he created so much that he gave it everything he had. Viracocha was not just a creator, he was a protector, a teacher, a being who saw the potential for greatness in even the smallest grain of sand. And in the vast, echoing silence of the mountains, his presence lingers, eternal and unyielding. The first light of dawn spread across the sky, a warm, golden glow chasing away the shadows of night. To the Akan people, this was not merely the passage of time. It was Niam's touch, the sky god breathing life into the world anew with each sunrise. His presence was not distant or removed, it was felt in every shift of the wind, in the hum of the forest, and the rhythmic beat of the drum. He was the provider, the sustainer, the silent architect whose hand shaped the universe. In the beginning, before there was form, there was Niam. He was infinite and formless, the vast expanse of the sky stretching endlessly. From his essence came the spark of creation, a seed planted in the void that would blossom into all that is seen and unseen. He looked upon the emptiness and willed it to change, summoning stars to light the heavens, their brilliance rivaling the fire within his heart. They became his watchers, standing vigil over the world that was yet to be. Niam's first gift was the earth itself, a cradle for the life he envisioned. He spoke, and the ground rose from the depths, solid and steadfast. He breathed, and the rivers began to flow, winding their way through valleys that he sculpted with care. He laughed, and the sound became the rustling of the leaves, the music of the world coming to life. Yet the earth, for all its beauty, was silent. It lacked the heartbeat that would bring it true vitality. Turning his gaze to the heavens, Niam called upon his eternal partner, Asacia, the earth goddess. Together, they began to shape life, blending their powers to create balance. Niam, with his mastery of the sky and the vastness of his wisdom, gave life its breath, its energy, its connection to the divine. Asacia, rooted in the soil, gave life its body, its sustenance, its grounding in the world. Their collaboration was a dance, a harmony that echoed through the ages. Life began to emerge, tentative at first, trees reaching toward the heavens, their branches striving to touch the skies where Niam dwelled. Animals roamed the land, their diversity reflecting the boundless creativity of their maker. The Akan say that Niam's handiwork is seen in the wings of the birds that soar closest to him, their songs carrying his name to every corner of the world. But it was not enough. Niam wanted beings who could speak, who could think, who could feel his presence in their hearts. So, he shaped humanity, molding them with the same care he used to arrange the stars. From Asacia, they inherited their connection to the land, their ability to build and thrive. From Niam, they received their spirit, their curiosity, their yearning for something greater. Niam's gifts to humanity did not end with their creation. He provided wisdom and knowledge, teaching them how to cultivate the land, how to honor the balance between taking and giving. He taught them the power of stories, imbuing them with the ability to pass down their history, their lessons, their connection to the divine. It is said that Niam's voice can still be heard in the proverbs of the elders and the wisdom they impart to the young. But even the most benevolent creator faces challenges. There was a time when humans, blinded by their own desires, began to forget their place in the balance of the world. They became careless, their actions threatening to unravel the harmony Niam and Asacia had worked so hard to establish. It was then that Niam withdrew to the sky, lifting himself beyond reach. He watched from above, his heart heavy with disappointment, yet he did not abandon his creation. From his place in the heavens, Niam continued to guide his people, sending rain to nourish their crops, lighting the sky with his sun by day and his stars by night. His withdrawal was not an act of anger but of trust. He believed in the potential of humanity and their ability to remember the lessons he had taught them, to restore the balance they had disrupted. To the Akan, Niam is not merely a god of the past. He is present in every moment, in every act of creation and every act of destruction. His contributions to the world are ongoing, his influence felt in the cycles of nature and the rhythm of life. He is the sky, infinite and unyielding, a constant reminder of the connection between the heavens and the earth. And as the drumbeats echo through the villages, as the storytellers weave their tales around the fire, the people remember. They honor Niam with their words, their actions, their respect for the world he created. They look to the sky, to the vast expanse that holds his presence, and they know they are never alone. For Niam, the sky god, is with them always, in every breath, and every heartbeat, and every dawn that breaks upon the horizon. The sea shimmered under a twilight sky, a boundless expanse of silver and gold that seemed to stretch forever. In this ethereal moment, two celestial beings stood at the bridge of heaven, gazing down upon the waters below. Izanagi and Izanami, divine siblings and destined partners, carried the weight of a world yet to be born. They were not merely creators, they were the spark, the pulse, the breath of life that would shape an entire realm. Izanagi held the jeweled spear, its polished shaft catching the last rays of light, while Izanami stood beside him, her presence radiating both strength and grace. Together, they bore the solemn duty bestowed upon them by the elder gods, to give form to the formless, to bring life where none yet existed. The air around them was heavy with anticipation, the quiet hum of creation waiting to explode into being. With careful hands, Izanagi extended the spear and dipped its ornate tip into the ocean below. He stirred the waters gently, his movements deliberate, almost reverent. When he raised the spear again, droplets cascaded from its point, falling back into the sea with a soft, melodic sound. But these were no ordinary droplets. Each one contained the essence of creation, the divine spark that would give birth to land. As the ripples spread outward, a mass began to rise from the depths, its surface shimmering under the heavens. This was the first island, the sacred cornerstone of what would soon become a vast and living world. Izanami's eyes glimmered with wonder as she stepped forward, her voice like the murmur of a distant stream. "It is beautiful," she said, her words carrying both awe and determination. Together, they descended to the island, their divine footsteps leaving no mark upon the pristine earth. This was to be their home, their sacred space from which all things would flow. The two deities circled the island in a ritual dance, their movements synchronized as if guided by an unseen force. Izanagi moved to the left, Izanami to the right, their paths crossing at the center. When they met, their eyes locked, and in that moment, a bond was forged that transcended the physical. It was a union of purpose, of power, of creation itself. From this union came the birth of new islands, each one an extension of their love, their vision, their divine will. The land expanded outward, forming the archipelago that would become Japan. But their creation did not stop at the earth. They knew the world needed more, life, energy, motion. So, they brought forth the kami, the spirits that would inhabit their creation and guide its growth. One by one, the kami emerged, each embodying a force of nature, a thread in the tapestry of existence. There was the god of wind, whose breath swept across the land, bending trees and shaping mountains. There was the goddess of rivers, whose flowing waters nourished the earth and carried life wherever they touched. There was the god of fire, whose flames brought both destruction and renewal, a reminder of the delicate balance between creation and chaos. But with creation came challenges. Izanami, the radiant mother of all things, faced the ultimate sacrifice as she gave birth to Kagetsuchi, the fiery kami. His flames burned her, and she descended into Yomi, the land of the dead, her light extinguished from the mortal realm. Izanagi, stricken with grief, pursued her into the shadows, his love refusing to let her go. Yet what he found in Yomi was not the partner he had known, but a reflection twisted by the void. Their final meeting was one of heartbreak, of love turned to sorrow. Izanami, bound to the realm of the dead, could no longer return to the world of the living. In his anguish, Izanagi fled, pursued by spirits of darkness. When he emerged into the light of the world above, he performed a ritual purification, cleansing himself of the taint of Yomi. From this act of purification sprang new deities, including Amaterasu, the sun goddess, whose light would forever illuminate the land they had created. Though separated by realms, the legacy of Izanagi and Izanami endured. Their love, their sacrifice, their divine acts of creation became the foundation upon which an entire culture was built. Their story was etched into the hearts of their descendants, a reminder of the delicate balance between life and death, creation and destruction, love and loss. The islands they forged from the sea, the kami they brought into existence, and the echoes of their union live on in every stone, every wave, and every whispered prayer that rises to the heavens. Before there was anything, there was Bumba. Alone in the vast emptiness, the great white being carried the weight of creation within him, a burden so profound that it filled every fiber of his being. The void around him was silent, heavy, and timeless, yet inside Bumba stirred the essence of a universe waiting to come alive. But creation, as beautiful as it may seem, often demands pain. For Bumba, it began with a deep ache, a twisting turmoil in his belly that grew sharper with every passing moment. It wasn't just a physical torment, it was the universe itself clawing to be born. Unable to contain it any longer, Bumba convulsed and vomited, expelling his agony and giving birth to something extraordinary. The first to emerge was the sun. Its golden brilliance tore through the darkness, flooding the void with light and warmth. Shadows fled before its radiance, and the vast expanse began to stir. The sun's warmth transformed the bleak nothingness, melting the frost of desolation into fertile waters that rippled with potential. As Bumba heaved again, his second creation came forth, the moon. Gentle and pale, it balanced the sun's fiery intensity, offering a cool, soothing glow. Together, the sun and moon orchestrated the rhythms of time, their dance marking days and nights, guiding the unfolding world. Bumba's suffering was far from over. Another wave overtook him, and the stars spilled forth, dotting the vast sky with countless points of light. They shimmered like scattered diamonds, their silent presence a promise of endless wonder. The heavens now bore the imprint of his sacrifice, their beauty born of his anguish. But the earth still lay barren, and Bumba's burden remained. Another spasm racked his body, and from his depths came the land, vast and unyielding, rising from the waters. Its edges were jagged and raw, but its surface whispered potential, a canvas ready to be painted with life. Bumba's body shook violently as he released again, and this time, life itself came forth. The first creatures emerged from his agony, a leopard, fierce and proud, its golden coat glistening in the new sunlight, an eagle, majestic and sharp-eyed, its wings cutting through the air with grace, a crocodile, ancient and primal, its body a reminder of the depths from which it came. Each was unique, a fragment of Bumba's essence molded into living form. The cycle continued. A fish, shimmering like liquid silver, splashed into the waters. A turtle, slow and deliberate, carried wisdom in its every movement. Each creature brought balance to the world, filling the land, sea, and sky with motion and sound. They were not merely animals, they were extensions of Bumba's spirit, living symbols of his power and pain. Yet Bumba's greatest creation was still to come. His body convulsed once more, and from his depths came humanity. Pale like their creator, humans stood in awe of the world they had inherited. They were fragile yet resilient, curious yet reverent, their existence a testament to Bumba's enduring love for the creation he had birthed in suffering. Bumba looked upon the world he had formed, the blazing sun, the serene moon, the twinkling stars, the vibrant earth teeming with life, and felt a deep, overwhelming exhaustion. His body, now empty, had given everything it could. The pain he endured was not in vain, it had birthed a world of breathtaking beauty and boundless possibility. The creatures and humans looked to Bumba with gratitude and wonder, understanding that their lives were woven from the threads of his sacrifice. They cherished the world he had gifted them, knowing it was born of his deepest pain and greatest love. Bumba's act of creation was raw and visceral, a reminder that beauty often arises from suffering. It was through his very being, his breath, his body, his torment, that existence was shaped. His story, passed down through generations, became a symbol of resilience and the transformative power of creation, a tale that echoed in the hearts of his people, inspiring reverence for the world and the divine force that brought it into being. The land was still, silent. A vast expanse of red earth stretched endlessly beneath a pale sky. Time itself seemed to sleep, waiting for something ancient and sacred to stir. And then, in the shimmering haze of the horizon, it began to move. A ripple in the earth, slow and deliberate, a great presence uncoiling beneath the surface. It was the rainbow serpent. Its body undulated, long and sinuous, iridescent scales catching flashes of light that painted the sky in hues of every color. Where it moved, the earth responded, shifting and shaping itself under its immense weight. Hills rose, rivers carved their paths, and valleys deepened in its wake. The world was taking form, and with every twist and turn of the rainbow serpent, the lifeless land transformed into a living, breathing creation. The serpent moved with purpose, as though guided by an eternal understanding, a wisdom beyond comprehension. It wasn't just sculpting the land, it was leaving its essence behind. Streams of water flowed where its coils had pressed into the earth, and in those waters, life began to stir. The grasses whispered as they sprouted, soft and green against the barren red. Trees stretched their arms toward the heavens, their roots drinking from the serpent's gift. The animals came next, born from the spirit of the serpent's journey. Kangaroos bounded from the soil, their strong legs leaping into the vast openness. Birds filled the sky, their wings painting the air with vibrant streaks of color. Each creature carried a story, a purpose etched into its being by the movements of the great serpent. The emu walked tall, its feathers bristling like the grasslands, while the crocodile carried the rough texture of the riverbanks on its armored hide. The rainbow serpent didn't only create the physical world. It also gave life to the law, the sacred principles that would guide every living thing. Its voice was a low rumble, like thunder rolling across the land, and from it came the words that shaped the ways of the people. These laws were not written in stone or carved into wood, but inscribed in the very fabric of existence. They were in the rhythm of the seasons, the patterns of the stars, the behavior of the animals. They were in the whispers of the wind and the murmur of the rivers. The people listened. They watched the serpent's movements and learned the laws of balance and respect. They understood that the land was not theirs to own, but a gift to cherish and care for. They learned to tread lightly, to take only what they needed, and to give back in return. They sang songs of the rainbow serpent, stories that carried its teachings across generations. But the serpent's power was not without its warnings. It could bring life, but it could also bring destruction. When the people forgot the laws or acted with greed, the serpent stirred from its slumber, its great body thrashing with anger. The earth trembled under its rage, and the rivers swelled with its tears. The people feared these moments, not because they saw the serpent as cruel, but because they understood that they were the ones who had broken the harmony it had so lovingly created. The rainbow serpent was both creator and guardian, a being whose presence was eternal and whose influence could be seen in every corner of the land. It shaped the mountains that touched the sky and the caves that whispered secrets of the earth's heart. Its colors lingered in the rainbows that bridged the heavens and the ground, a reminder of its promise and its power. As the serpent rested, its body became part of the landscape. Some said it curled beneath the hills, its breath still flowing as the wind. Others believed it stretched across the rivers, its spirit watching over the waterholes where life gathered. Wherever it was, the people felt its presence. And every sunrise, every thunderstorm, every quiet moment under the starlit sky, the rainbow serpent was there, a silent guardian of the world it had shaped and the laws it had gifted. The land and the people were inseparable, bound together by the serpent's legacy. Every footprint on the earth was a continuation of its story, a testament to the connection between creation, life, and responsibility. The rainbow serpent's journey was never truly finished. It lived on in the hearts of those who remembered, in the songs they sang, and in the way they cared for the land that bore its sacred imprint. The ocean stretched endlessly, a boundless blue that kissed the horizon and cradled the sky. Beneath its surface, waves whispered secrets of creation, tales of a god whose spirit flowed through every current and tide. Tangaroa, the great sea god, was not just a force of the ocean but the lifeblood of existence itself. His breath was the salt-laden breeze that carried life to distant shores, his heartbeat the rhythm of waves meeting the land. The sea was his canvas, and every ripple told a story. Tangaroa's essence was everywhere, in the shimmering scales of fish darting through coral gardens and in the towering swells that rose with a power both awe-inspiring and terrifying. He was the creator who gave the waters their depth and mystery, shaping not just the physical world but the spirit of life itself. From his vast domain came the fish and creatures of the sea, the vibrant reefs that pulsed with color, and the endless bounty that sustained the people who depended on his generosity. The ocean was never still, it reflected the moods of Tangaroa. On calm days, when the water mirrored the heavens, it carried an unmistakable peace, as if the god himself smiled upon the world. But there were times when the sea churned in chaos, its waves rising like mountains, its winds howling with unrestrained fury. These moments were warnings, reminders of Tangaroa's power and the respect he demanded. His waters could nurture life, but they could also reclaim it, drawing it back into the depths where it had begun. Tangaroa's connection to creation extended beyond the creatures of the sea. He gave life to navigation, an art born from the understanding of his ever-changing waters. The people looked to him for guidance, learning to read the stars and the currents, the winds and the swells. They built their canoes with reverence, knowing that each voyage across the vast, uncharted ocean was a conversation with Tangaroa himself. Every paddle stroke was a prayer, every sail a tribute to the god who held the power to guide or to test. The navigators, those brave souls who ventured into the unknown, carried Tangaroa in their hearts. They spoke his name in hushed tones, their respect for him as immense as the ocean they crossed. To them, he was not just a deity but a teacher, a protector, and a companion. His lessons were etched into the patterns of the waves and the songs of the seabirds. His spirit was a constant presence, a reminder that the sea, vast and untamable, was both a challenge and a gift. In the stories of the people, Tangaroa's role as creator was inseparable from his role as a guide. They told of how he shaped the islands, his waves carving shores that would cradle communities and his waters surrounding them like an embrace. The land and sea were bound together, each reliant on the other, and Tangaroa's influence flowed through both. He was the thread that connected all things, weaving a tapestry of life that stretched across the endless ocean. But Tangaroa's power was not without its demands. The people understood the need to honor him, to respect the ocean's boundaries, and to take only what was necessary. They offered their thanks through rituals and songs, their voices rising above the sound of the waves in a chorus of gratitude. To disrespect Tangaroa, to exploit his gifts without thought or care, was to invite his wrath. The people feared his anger not because it was cruel, but because it was just. It was a reminder that balance must always be maintained, that harmony with the sea was the key to survival. The stories of Tangaroa carried a weight that went beyond their words. They were reminders of humanity's place in the world, of the connection between the people and the ocean, the land, and the sky. They were lessons in humility and reverence, and the understanding that the sea was not just a resource but a living, breathing entity. Tangaroa was the ocean's soul, and to honor him was to honor life itself. Through Tangaroa, the people found not only sustenance but identity. The ocean was their home, their livelihood, and their inspiration. Its vastness mirrored the vastness of their spirit, its depth the depth of their connection to the divine. Tangaroa's presence was in every wave that kissed the shore, every breeze that carried the scent of salt and freedom. He was the creator, the navigator, the protector, and the judge. The ocean, like Tangaroa, was eternal, a force that shaped the world and the lives of those who lived within its embrace. It was a place of mystery and beauty, of danger and renewal. It was the beginning and the end, the source of all things and the keeper of countless secrets. And through it all, Tangaroa watched, his spirit flowing through the currents, his essence alive in every drop of water. A shadow crossed the sky, the dark, sharp silhouette of wings cutting through the golden light of dawn. The raven's cry echoed across the land, a sharp, haunting call that seemed to carry stories older than time itself. This was no ordinary bird. Its feathers glinted with a mystic sheen, its eyes burned with a mischievous glimmer, and its very presence hummed with power. It was a being of contradictions, a trickster, a creator, a force both revered and feared. Raven was there at the beginning, before the world had shape or purpose. The land was raw and chaotic, a place yearning for life yet unsure how to awaken. Raven saw this, its sharp mind already brimming with ideas, and decided to act. With a playful tilt of its head, it began to gather the pieces of creation, its beak touching the earth, the sea, and the sky, weaving together the foundation of existence. Yet Raven was not gentle or predictable. It created not with solemnity but with cunning and laughter. In one story, it stole the sun itself, its black feathers shimmering with defiance as it carried the blazing orb across the heavens to bring light to the world. The sun's warmth had been hidden, selfishly hoarded, and Raven, ever the opportunist, could not resist the challenge. The people watched in awe as the skies lit up, their gratitude mingling with laughter at Raven's audacity. Raven's creations were not always born of intention. In its curiosity, it stumbled into moments of brilliance. A misplaced feather might grow into a towering tree, a playful swoop over water could carve a river's path. But beneath this whimsy was a deep wisdom, a recognition of the beauty in imperfection and chaos. Raven did not seek to make the world perfect, it sought to make it alive. The people, too, were touched by Raven's cleverness. In one tale, they were formed from clay, their shapes crude and simple until Raven breathed life into them. But even as it gave them the gift of existence, it could not resist adding its own twist. It made them imperfect, with hearts full of dreams but also doubts, with the ability to love but also to hurt. Raven watched them stumble and grow, its cries sometimes mocking, sometimes guiding, always present. Raven's role as a trickster was inseparable from its power as a creator. It thrived on disruption, on turning the expected into the unexpected. Where others saw limits, Raven saw opportunities. When the world grew complacent, it stirred the pot, scattering seeds of change that would grow into forests of possibility. Its tricks were not cruel, they were lessons, wrapped in riddles and laughter. The people learned to be resourceful, to adapt, to find joy even in struggle. Through Raven's mischief, they discovered their own resilience. In one tale, Raven, in its endless hunger for both food and entertainment, tricked the animals of the world into giving up their secrets. It mimicked their calls, its voice weaving through the forest like a thread, unraveling mysteries hidden in shadow. Each stolen secret added to Raven's knowledge, but it also gave the animals something in return, a story to tell, a piece of their essence that would live forever in the fabric of creation. Raven's hunger was not limited to knowledge. It was a physical, insatiable craving, a reminder of its dual nature. In one story, it brought salmon to the rivers, its beak dropping the shimmering fish into the waters where they would multiply and feed generations. Yet even as it gifted the people with abundance, Raven was not above stealing a meal for itself, its cunning eyes watching for the perfect moment to snatch a prize. The world Raven created was as wild and unpredictable as the bird itself. It was a place of beauty and danger, of laughter and sorrow. Mountains rose like the beats of Raven's wings, rivers twisted and turned like its playful paths through the sky. Every corner of the land bore its mark, every living thing carried a piece of its spirit. And the people, for all their flaws and struggles, were its greatest creation, a reflection of Raven's own complexity. But Raven's greatest gift was not the sun, or the salmon, or the clay-formed people. It was the stories. Through its deeds, both mischievous and profound, it gave the people a way to understand the world and their place within it. Every prank, every triumph, every moment of creation became a thread in the tapestry of their lives. They spoke of Raven in their songs and dances, their laughter and tears. Through their stories, Raven lived on, its shadow passing over the hearts of generations. Raven was not just a creator, it was a reminder that creation itself is a messy, chaotic act. It is born from mistakes as much as from intention, from curiosity as much as from wisdom. In Raven's world, nothing was fixed or final. The sun could be stolen, the rivers could change course, and the people could always find a way to adapt. Creation was not a single moment, but an ongoing dance, a story that Raven continued to shape with every beat of its wings. The sky shimmered with a luminous beauty, a world above the world where everything thrived in harmony. In this celestial domain, life flowed like an eternal river, its currents unbroken and serene. Sky Woman stood amidst it all, her presence radiant, her steps purposeful yet gentle. But fate has a way of bending the straightest paths, and one day, the unthinkable happened. A crack appeared beneath her feet, a fissure in the fabric of her perfect world. It widened, unstoppable, and before she could grasp what was happening, she was falling. The air rushed past her, cold and unforgiving, carrying her away from the skies she had always known. She clutched seeds in her hands, instinctively holding onto them as if they were the last remnants of her lost home. Below her was endless water, vast and unbroken. It stretched in every direction, reflecting the emptiness of the void she now inhabited. There was no land, no place to land, just an endless expanse of waves that shimmered in the faint light. As she fell, she did not cry out. Instead, her heart carried the silent weight of both despair and hope, an aching tension that pulsed with every beat. In the water, the creatures stirred. They looked up and saw her descending, a being unlike anything they had ever known. A council of sorts formed among them, an unspoken agreement to save her. The great birds, with their powerful wings, flew up to catch her, their feathers brushing against her as they slowed her fall. Together, they brought her safely to the surface of the water. But safety was not enough. Sky Woman needed a place to rest, to exist, and there was no land to be found. The creatures, moved by her presence and the quiet dignity of her gaze, began to act. The mighty beaver, the muskrat, the otter, all tried to dive deep into the water to bring up the earth. One by one, they swam into the depths, their small forms disappearing into the dark, cold waters below. It was the muskrat, smallest and seemingly weakest among them, who succeeded. It returned, its tiny body trembling, a speck of earth clutched in its paws. Sky Woman took the earth with reverence, cradling it as if it were the most precious gift she had ever received. Then the turtle came forward, its ancient shell glistening in the water. It offered its back, its steady and enduring form, as a foundation for what would come next. Sky Woman placed the earth on the turtle's back, her hands moving with care and purpose. She began to spread the soil, her fingers pressing it gently into the surface of the shell. With each touch, she planted the seed she had carried with her, gifts from the world she had left behind. From those seeds, life began to grow. The earth expanded, spreading outward from the turtle's back, rich and fertile. Trees stretched their arms toward the sky, their leaves trembling with a vitality that seemed almost otherworldly. Grass sprouted in soft, green waves, its fragrance filling the air. Flowers bloomed in bursts of color, each petal a whisper of the world that had once been hers. The earth had taken root, and it was alive. Sky Woman, though a stranger in this new world, did not mourn what she had lost. She moved with grace, tending to the life that grew around her. Her hands, once filled with seeds, now nurtured the soil, her touch gentle but firm. She breathed life into the land, her presence an anchor for the balance between water and earth, sky and soil. The animals watched her with quiet awe, their eyes reflecting her image. She had not commanded them, yet they had followed her lead, their actions weaving the threads of creation alongside her. They understood, in their own way, that she was part of them now, and they of her. Together, they had shaped the world, their efforts bound by a shared sense of purpose and belonging. Sky Woman's fall was not an end, but a beginning, a moment of creation born from the void. The land that grew on the turtle's back became the cradle of life, its contours shaped by her hands and the gift she carried. The seeds, once mere remnants of a lost sky, blossomed into a living testament to her resilience and hope. And so, the earth began. In the beginning, there was nothing. A formless void stretched endlessly, its silence vast and impenetrable. And then, into that emptiness, a voice spoke, a voice that carried not just sound, but existence itself. Let there be light. In an instant, darkness fractured, and light poured forth, illuminating the first day of creation. It was not a burst of chaos, but a deliberate act, an unveiling of something infinitely greater. The voice belonged to Yahweh, a presence both infinite and intimately close, a creator whose power surged not from force but from word. With each command, the universe unfolded like a canvas, each stroke imbued with purpose. The heavens stretched wide, the earth took shape, and the waters gathered in harmonious rhythms. This was not the indifferent assembly of matter, it was an act of profound care. The second day brought the firmament, a vast expanse to divide the waters below from those above. Its existence was a bridge between realms, a reminder of the balance Yahweh instilled in every part of creation. The heavens glimmered, their beauty untouched by time or flaw. There was order in the chaos that once was, a rhythm orchestrated by unseen hands. On the third day, the land emerged, dry and steady, rising from the waters like a promise. The seas roared as they found their bounds, their edges kissing the shores with reverence. Grass sprang forth, carpeting the earth in vibrant green, while trees reached skyward, their branches heavy with fruit. Each leaf was a declaration of life, each blade of grass a whisper of growth. The sun, moon, and stars came on the fourth day, their lights piercing the heavens. The sun burned bright, its warmth embracing the earth, while the moon waxed and waned, its silver glow a gentle companion to the night. The stars shimmered like a choir of distant voices, eternal witnesses to the unfolding of creation. They did not merely mark time, they sanctified it. On the fifth day, the waters teemed with life. Fish darted through the oceans, their scales catching the light, while birds soared above, their wings slicing through the air. The world pulsed with vitality, a symphony of motion and sound that echoed Yahweh's words. Each creature was unique, its form and purpose inscribed by a hand that knew no bounds. Then came the sixth day, a day that carried the weight of something extraordinary. The beasts of the earth appeared, cattle that grazed the land, wild creatures that roamed freely, and every crawling thing that found its home in the soil. They were alive, their eyes gleaming with the spark of existence. And then, Yahweh paused. There was a shift, a silence laden with anticipation. Into the stillness, the words came, words that would alter the fabric of creation forever. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. From the dust of the ground, Yahweh formed humanity, shaping it with care, breathing life into its nostrils. The first human stood, not as a mere creation, but as a reflection of the divine. Humanity was given dominion, not as a license for exploitation, but as a sacred trust. They were to name the creatures, to tend the garden, to live in harmony with all that had been made. Yahweh saw them and declared them good, the crowning achievement of creation. The seventh day arrived, and with it, rest. Yahweh blessed this day, setting it apart as holy. It was not a rest born of exhaustion, but a rest that celebrated completion, a moment to step back and behold the fullness of what had been made. The world was whole, vibrant, and good. But woven into this story was something more profound, a thread that ran deeper than the act of creation itself. It was a love so vast that it gave freely, shaping a world not out of necessity but out of desire. Yahweh did not simply create, Yahweh cared. Every element of creation bore the mark of intentionality, a reflection of the Creator's heart. The story of Genesis was not just about the how but the why. It spoke of purpose, of relationship, of a Creator who walked in the garden alongside humanity. It was a story that reached beyond its own time, its echoes lingering in every sunrise, every gust of wind, every life born into the world. Creation was not finished, it was ongoing, a living testament to a voice that spoke light into darkness, life into void. It was not merely a beginning, it was an invitation to see the world as sacred, to recognize the divine fingerprints in every part of existence. And in that recognition, to understand that humanity was not an afterthought but a cherished part of the whole. In the stillness of eternity, before time began its relentless march, there was Allah, the eternal, the unseen, the all-knowing. His will alone was enough to bring forth the vastness of creation, an act of infinite power and compassion. Be, he commanded, and it was. From nothingness, the universe unfolded, vibrant and purposeful, every atom falling into place under his watchful gaze. The heavens and the earth were once a single entity, a unified expanse bound by silence and darkness. Then, at his command, they were cleaved apart, their separation giving birth to the vast skies and the nurturing earth. He adorned the heavens with celestial lights, the sun burning bright to guide the day and the moon softening the night. Stars were scattered like jewels, illuminating the paths of travelers and whispering the magnitude of his creation. The earth trembled with potential, its barren surface waiting for his decree. He spread it out, shaping its terrain with valleys and mountains, rivers and seas. From these waters, he brought forth life, plants swaying in the breeze, their fruits nourishing the world. Every grain of sand, every blade of grass, every drop of rain spoke of a Creator who not only built the world but imbued it with harmony. Then came the waters of the seas, teeming with life, and the skies, alive with the flutter of wings. The diversity of creation was a testament to his boundless creativity. Birds, with their feathers of every hue, soared through the heavens. Animals of every form roamed the lands, their existence sustained by his mercy. But amidst all this beauty, there was one act of creation that stood apart. From clay, lifeless and humble, he shaped the form of man. The hands of the angels trembled as they watched, for this was no ordinary creation. Into this figure, Allah breathed his spirit, and Adam opened his eyes. He was not merely alive, he was aware, curious, and capable of knowing his Creator. Adam was taught the names of all things, a profound act that set him apart from the angels. Through this knowledge, humanity was given the ability to understand, to reflect, and to connect. It was a gift that carried immense responsibility, a trust that would shape the destiny of all who followed. The creation of humanity was not just an act of power, but an act of love. Allah entrusted the earth to mankind, a place of sustenance and trial. He sent down rain to nourish the soil, causing crops to grow and rivers to flow. The natural world became a living scripture, its every element a sign of his presence. The sun's warmth, the night's tranquility, the wind's gentle touch, all were reminders of the Creator's mercy. But humanity's creation also marked the beginning of a story, one that intertwined obedience and defiance, gratitude and forgetfulness. Adam's role as the first prophet carried the weight of guidance, and through him, Allah's words began to echo across generations. The Quran recounts this creation not just as an event, but as a message, a reminder of purpose and accountability. Allah's creation is flawless, without error or oversight. The heavens are upheld without pillars, the earth rotates in perfect balance, and the oceans stay within their bounds. Every element reflects his wisdom, every detail a sign for those who reflect. Life was not an accident but a gift, a deliberate act filled with meaning. Even the transitions of day and night, the rhythmic pulse of existence, are signs for those who seek to understand. Allah created the world in measured stages, a testament to his deliberate care. Time itself became a canvas for his artistry, each moment a fragment of his greater design. Creation was not limited to the physical world, it extended to the human soul, its depths unfathomable, its potential limitless. Allah fashioned the heart to feel, the mind to reason, and the spirit to yearn for him. The ability to choose, to love, to worship, these were not mere coincidences, but the essence of what it meant to be human. The Quran speaks of a creator who is closer to his creation than their own veins, who hears every whisper, who knows every thought before it is formed. This closeness is a source of comfort, a reminder that existence is not solitary but deeply connected to the one who gave it meaning. Yet, amidst the beauty and balance of creation, there is an undeniable truth: life is fleeting. The mountains will crumble, the stars will fade, and the earth will return to dust. Creation is not static but a cycle, a flow that begins with Allah and returns to him. This realization does not diminish the wonder of life, it magnifies it, urging every soul to cherish and honor the world they inhabit. Through the act of creation, Allah revealed not only his power but his mercy. He gave humanity the earth as a home, adorned with countless blessings, from the air they breathe to the food they eat. Each of these gifts carries a silent question: will they remember their Creator? Will they honor the trust placed in their hands? The story of creation in the Quran is more than an account of origins, it is a call to action, a reminder to live with awareness and gratitude. Allah's words invite every soul to look at the world with wonder, to see his signs in every corner of existence. The beauty of a blooming flower, the majesty of a roaring ocean, the innocence of a child's laughter, all these are reflections of a Creator whose love for his creation knows no bounds. In the silence of the night, when the stars glimmer above and the world rests in stillness, there is a sense of the divine presence. It is in these moments that the weight of creation becomes clear, not as a burden, but as a gift. And within that gift lies the ultimate question: how will it be honored? In the beginning, there was nothing, an abyss of silence and shadows, an expanse so dark and empty that no light dared to touch it. Yet from this nothingness, a being emerged. Not a gentle whisper, nor a graceful unfolding, but a force. A Creator, bold and unrelenting. But this wasn't the creation of beauty or harmony, or so it seemed. This was the birth of something altogether different, something distant and unfamiliar, reaching beyond human understanding. The Demiurge. Unlike the compassionate creators of other myths, the Demiurge was a being of cold calculation. Its creation was not born from love or purpose, but from necessity. It was as though the world itself had to exist, but not for the sake of beauty or order. It was a world forged by a distant, untouchable force, one that created the material realm, not out of grace, but from a desire to impose structure upon chaos. The Demiurge, so often misunderstood, was not a mere architect of space and time. No. It was the architect of limitation. It created the boundaries of the material world, where light could not reach, where the soul could feel trapped within the confines of the body. It bound existence with rules, rules that kept the spirit from soaring freely. The material world, as beautiful as it might appear, was a cage in which the soul was bound. The world was a place of duality, beauty and pain, life and death, good and evil. The Demiurge did not care to weave harmony into this delicate balance. It was a creator of division, of fragmentation. There was no deeper meaning in the world it fashioned. It was a world where everything could be explained in terms of material causes, but never in terms of ultimate purpose or divine understanding. In the eyes of the Gnostics, the Demiurge's creation was a veil. It was a mask, obscuring the true, higher reality from the eyes of those who lived within it. It kept them distracted by the material world, drowning them in the details of existence, blinding them to the spiritual truth that lay beyond. It was as though they were trapped in a vast labyrinth of illusion, walking on paths they thought were real, but all the while, the true light was just out of reach. What if everything you knew, everything you believed to be real, was a lie? What if the world you could see, touch, and taste was only a shadow of something more profound, something far more beautiful, yet hidden from your view? The Gnostics believed this was the case. The world of the senses was but a distorted reflection of a higher, purer reality that lay just beyond the grasp of ordinary human experience. And so, in the shadows of the Demiurge's creation, there were whispers of hope. For even in the heart of a world shaped by a cold, indifferent force, there remained the possibility of awakening, of transcendence. This awakening was the key to liberation. It wasn't enough to accept the world as it was, to live within the confines set by the Demiurge. There was something more. The spark of divine knowledge, gnosis, lay dormant within the human soul, waiting to be awakened. The world, though seemingly cold and indifferent, was a place where the spirit could still find freedom. If only it could break free from the material limitations, from the laws of the Demiurge's world, it could return to its true, divine source. The path was not easy, nor was it clear, but for those who sought truth above all else, the journey would lead them to the ultimate realization. The material world was an illusion, a dream that could be overcome. The Demiurge, for all its power and control, was not the end of the story. It was merely the beginning. At the heart of this struggle was the tension between what the world presented as truth and what the soul knew deep within to be its true nature. The Demiurge's world was one of suffering and limitation, where every soul was caught in the cycle of birth and death, unaware of the eternal light that flickered within them. But the light was always there, hidden, waiting to be discovered. The true purpose of creation, according to Gnostic thought, was not to conform to the world's rules, to accept the material as final, but to seek the higher knowledge that transcended it all. The Demiurge might have created the physical world, but the higher reality, the divine realm, was where the soul truly belonged. And so, the Gnostics urged those who heard their call to seek the truth that lay beyond the material world. To awaken to the divine spark within themselves, to free their souls from the chains the Demiurge had forged. Yet, the Demiurge was not just a malevolent force. It was an ignorant force, blind to the higher truth. It did not know the divine fullness that lay beyond its creation. In its cold, calculating nature, it only sought to maintain control. But the spirit of humanity was never truly bound. Even in the darkest corners of the Demiurge's world, there was a flicker of rebellion, a longing to reach beyond the veil. This rebellion was not against the world itself, but against the limitations imposed by the Demiurge. The spirit, in its deepest essence, sought to transcend the boundaries of the material, to break free of the prison of the body and return to the source. This was the true act of creation, not the formation of the world as it is, but the birth of understanding, the realization that there was something more, a higher realm of existence that could be reached through knowledge. For those who could awaken to this truth, the world no longer felt like a prison. It became a place of learning, of growth. The chains of the demiurge could be seen for what they were, mere illusions that held no true power over the soul. And in this realization, the soul could begin its journey of liberation, breaking free from the constraints of the material world, transcending the false creations of the demiurge. In the end, the demiurge, for all its control, could not stop the true creator, the one beyond all creation. The divine light, the true source of existence, was beyond the reach of the demiurge's creation. And so, the soul, awakened and free, would return to its home, to the place where it truly belonged, leaving behind the shadowed world and the false architect that had once held it captive. At the very heart of the universe, where light and darkness forever clash, a battle rages. It is not a battle of armies, nor of men, but a battle for the very soul of existence. In one corner stands Ahura Mazda, the wise and benevolent god, creator of the world, bringer of light, and lord of truth. In the other, the chaotic force of Ingramaynu, the spirit of destruction, lies waiting. The stage is set for a cosmic struggle that will define the fate of all things, light against darkness, order against chaos, creation against destruction. This is the world of Zoroastrianism, where the universe is not just a place of existence but a battleground, and every living thing, every breath of life, is drawn into the clash between two powerful forces. Ahura Mazda's creation shines with purity and light, a world of beauty, growth, and harmony. His realm is one where truth, goodness, and justice are upheld, and where every part of creation has a purpose, a place. It is a vision of perfect order, yet it exists in constant tension with the darker side of reality. Ingramaynu, the spirit of chaos, seeks to unmake all that Ahura Mazda has created. His world is one of lies, of deceit, and of destruction. He is the force that sows discord, confusion, and suffering. Where Ahura Mazda creates with purpose, Ingramaynu seeks only to destroy and divide. This battle between the two is not only fought on a cosmic scale but in every individual soul. The struggle between Ahura Mazda and Ingramaynu is not a distant myth, it is felt in the heart of every person. The daily fight between good and evil, truth and lies, love and hate, is the very core of existence. We live in a world where we can feel the pull between these two forces, where every choice we make matters, and every action we take shapes the world around us. In Zoroastrianism, the battle is not just external, it is internal as well. Ahura Mazda's light shines brightly, inviting all who are willing to embrace it. He offers a path of righteousness, a way of truth, where good triumphs over evil, and order prevails over chaos. His creation is a sacred trust, meant to be nurtured and protected. The beauty of the world, the sky, the earth, the rivers, the trees, the animals, each part of it is a reflection of his goodness and wisdom. The sun rises each day, the stars will above us, and life continues, each moment a gift from the Creator. But the shadow of Ingramaynu lies heavy upon it. The chaos that he sows takes root in the hearts of humans, turning them towards selfishness, hatred, and destruction. It is a force that calls out, seeking to lead people astray, to break down the harmony that Ahura Mazda has created. Every evil, every lie, every war, every disease, it is all a reflection of Ingramaynu's power to disrupt the peace of creation. And it is in the hearts of people where the battle is most fierce. The cosmic war is fought on a stage far larger than we can comprehend, but it is mirrored in the smallest of moments. When we choose to act out of love, when we stand for truth, we fight on the side of Ahura Mazda. When we give in to hatred, when we deceive, when we harm others, we feed the forces of chaos. The tension between these two forces is present in every decision we make. Will we choose the path of righteousness, or will we let the shadows of doubt and greed cloud our judgment? It is a battle with high stakes. The outcome of this war shapes not just the world we live in but our very souls. In Zoroastrian thought, each individual is not just a passive participant in the world, but an active combatant in this battle. Every act of kindness, every word of truth, every effort to build rather than destroy, strengthens the forces of Ahura Mazda. And every action rooted in anger, deceit, or greed strengthens the power of Ingramaynu, bringing the world a step closer to chaos and destruction. Ahura Mazda's creation is not some idyllic, untouched paradise. It is a living, breathing world filled with challenges and obstacles. It is a world where the forces of light and darkness coexist, constantly battling for dominance. And yet, Ahura Mazda's promise is clear: light will triumph. Goodness will prevail, but only if those who dwell in the world hold fast to the ideals of truth, justice, and compassion. Each person, in their own small way, becomes part of this cosmic struggle. It is the choices they make that will determine the outcome, not just of their own lives, but of the world itself. In this dualistic worldview, every act is significant. Every small decision to show kindness, to choose truth over lies, to build rather than destroy, it all matters. It is in these moments that the battle is won or lost. The struggle between Ahura Mazda and Ingramaynu is ongoing, never-ending, and it calls us all to play our part. There is no neutral ground. There is no middle way. We are either contributing to the creation of a better world or feeding the forces of destruction. This is the great challenge, the invitation to choose the light, to choose goodness, to choose to create. The universe, in all its beauty and chaos, is an arena where this great battle unfolds. And while it may seem impossible at times, with darkness closing in, there is always the flicker of hope. The light of Ahura Mazda, though tested and tried, cannot be extinguished. In every act of goodness, and every choice that upholds truth and justice, the light grows stronger, pushing back against the shadows. And so, the battle continues, played out in every moment of our lives. It is a struggle we all share, whether we realize it or not. It is a battle between creation and chaos, between truth and lies, between good and evil, and it is a battle that will determine the fate of the world and the soul. There was once a time before time, a void so dark and endless that it swallowed everything, nothing moved, nothing breathed. The universe, in its infancy, was a silent, restless sea of nothingness. Then, from this great emptiness, a single sound broke the stillness, a loud crack, a rupture, and from the heart of the chaos, Pangu emerged. A cosmic giant, born of nothing but possibility, his very existence was the beginning of everything. He opened his eyes for the first time, and where his gaze fell, the universe began to take shape. He was alone, but in his hands, he held the power of creation itself. With each breath, the world shifted. The vast sky stretched above him, while the solid earth grew beneath him. The air filled with the first whispers of life, the earth softened and swirled, and the oceans began their eternal dance with the land. His body, mighty and enormous, was the vessel of creation. Every part of him gave birth to something new. His breath became the wind, his voice, thunder. His arms lifted the heavens above and below, creating space where none had existed. Pangu's body was the framework, the blueprint of existence. From his eyes, the sun and moon sprang into being, lighting up the world with their gentle, warming glow. From his legs, mountains erupted, and rivers carved paths through the new lands he had created. His blood flowed, and in that sacred liquid, the seas and lakes were formed. His hair scattered across the skies, becoming the stars that now twinkle like distant whispers. His skin, strong and eternal, became the vast expanse of the earth. As Pangu shaped the world, there was a constant, unspoken sacrifice. With every movement, with every shift, his body lost a piece of itself. He grew weaker, but his strength was not a simple power, it was a love for the world he was creating. In his agony, he poured himself into the earth, gifting it all he had. His bones became mountains, his veins became rivers, his breath became the wind, and his very soul became the life force that would pulse through the world forever. The more he gave, the more the world grew, blossomed, and evolved. It was not an easy task. The weight of the world, of the universe, was a burden too great to bear for any one being, but Pangu carried it willingly. There were moments when he faltered, when the weight of creation pressed so hard against him that he nearly collapsed. But he persisted, driven by the quiet knowledge that his purpose was greater than any pain or exhaustion he felt. As the years passed, Pangu's strength began to fade. The world had taken shape, and now it stood as a testament to his love, his sacrifice, and his unwavering dedication. But the giant, whose every fiber had woven the world into existence, was no longer the vibrant, mighty force he once was. His body, once alive with the spark of creation, began to wither. Yet, there was no regret in his heart, only peace. He had given everything, and in doing so, he had gifted the world something more precious than anything he could have kept for himself. And so, Pangu's body gave its final offering. As his heart slowed and his body crumbled, the world was left to flourish. His sacrifice was complete. The earth stood strong, the sky stretched endlessly above, the oceans flowed with life, and the stars twinkled with the energy of his soul. Every blade of grass, every tree, every living creature was a reflection of the giant who had once breathed life into them. His spirit did not vanish, it lingered in every corner of the world. The earth and sky were no longer just places, they were living, breathing parts of Pangu. The mountains, shaped by his hands, whispered his name with every gust of wind. The rivers, flowing with the rhythm of his blood, sang songs of his creation. And every heartbeat, every life that began, was a tribute to the great Pangu, who had given everything to make the world whole. In this act of selfless creation, Pangu's story is one of sacrifice and love that transcends even death. His body, now intertwined with the earth, was not merely the foundation of the world, it was the world itself. His final breath, carried by the wind, became the very spirit of life that flows through all things. He is the first, the last, and everything in between, the embodiment of creation's endless cycle, forever a part of the world he built with his own body. Pangu's story is one of unimaginable strength, but also of quiet humility. He did not create the world for glory or recognition, but because it was his destiny, his calling. His very essence was bound to creation, and in giving himself entirely to it, he brought forth not just a physical world, but a world alive with purpose. Each day, as the sun rises and sets, as the stars make their nightly journey across the sky, they carry his spirit with them, an eternal reminder that even in the face of sacrifice, beauty and life are born. Through Pangu's story, we understand the true cost of creation, not in gold or jewels, but in the quiet, unwavering dedication to something greater than oneself. And though the giant is no longer physically present, his legacy is in every living thing that walks, crawls, flies, and grows. Pangu's life, his sacrifice, and the world he created are forever woven together, a living testament to the power of selfless love and the enduring strength of creation itself. In the beginning, the universe was nothing but a vast expanse of emptiness. A silence so deep, you could feel it in your bones. The wind didn't blow, the rivers didn't flow, and the earth was a cold, barren place. But then, from the silence, a voice spoke, a command, a call to life. Olajumer, the great and all-powerful source of all existence, whispered a single word, and from that whisper, everything began to take shape. But Olajumer knew that creation was not to be a solitary act. It would require the help of the Orishas, divine beings who would give form to the world, each holding a piece of the divine within them. They would be the hands and feet of creation, the ones who would shape and mold humanity, who would breathe life into the earth and guide its every movement. One by one, the Orishas descended from the heavens, each with a specific task to carry out. They were not mere spirits, they were forces of nature, each embodying an aspect of life. Elegba, the trickster, who opened the roads and paths for the world to travel. Ashen, the goddess of love and fertility, whose touch would bring beauty and abundance to the earth. Shango, the god of thunder, whose power could shake the heavens and the earth with his fiery will. With each Orisha's arrival, the earth began to breathe. Trees rose from the ground, flowers bloomed, and rivers carved paths through the land. Yet, as magnificent as the earth had become, it still lacked the most important thing, the spark of life. The Orishas worked tirelessly, shaping the land, the sea, and the sky, but they were waiting for something beyond their reach. It was Olajumer who finally called upon them. Go, "Create humanity," he commanded, "for the world is nothing without life." With those words, the Orishas gathered together and set to work. They shaped the first humans out of clay, using the earth's own materials to form their bodies. Each Orisha poured a part of themselves into the creation. Elegba gave them the gift of free will, the ability to choose their own paths in life. Ashen gave them hearts capable of love and compassion, a gentle warmth that would bind them together. Shango filled their spirits with fire, with passion, with the strength to face challenges. And each of the other Orishas added their own gifts: wisdom, courage, beauty, the power of nature, until the first humans stood before them, fully formed. But something was still missing. The humans were beautiful, yes, but they were lifeless. There was no breath in their bodies, no pulse in their veins. The Orishas had done their part, but only Olodumare could give them life. And so, in the silence that followed, Olodumare did what he alone could do. He breathed life into the clay bodies, filling them with his divine breath. The humans stirred, opened their eyes, and felt the world around them for the first time. The air was warm, the ground solid beneath them, and the sky stretched above like a blanket of endless possibility. The humans were not perfect, but they were alive, and in their hearts burned the gift of the Orishas, their strength, their love, their wisdom, their passion. They were creations of the gods, and their existence was a miracle. They were born with the ability to choose, to grow, to learn, to love. But they were also born with the knowledge that their creators, the Orishas, would always be with them, guiding them, protecting them, loving them. For the humans, the world was a gift, a world full of beauty, challenges, and mysteries. They were made to live fully, to experience all that the earth had to offer. And as they lived, they would carry the Orishas within them, for each human was a reflection of the divine beings who had shaped them. Every action, every thought, every choice they made carried with it a piece of the gods. The Orishas, though divine, were not distant. They did not retreat into the heavens after giving life to humanity. Instead, they remained close, watching over the humans, guiding them with their wisdom. They whispered in the wind, danced in the fire, flowed in the rivers, and rested in the earth. Every moment of creation was an act of love, and every moment of life was a chance for the Orishas to share their gifts with the humans. The humans, in turn, honored the Orishas. They built shrines and sang songs of praise, offering sacrifices and prayers. But the Orishas did not ask for worship, they asked for respect, for the understanding that humanity was never alone. The Orishas were their protectors, their teachers, their family. As long as they honored the balance between the earth, the sky, and the sea, the Orishas would continue to guide them. But life is not always easy, and challenges came. Humans faced hunger, sickness, and suffering. There were moments when the world felt too heavy to bear. The Orishas were not invincible, and they knew the struggles humanity would face. But they had given the humans the greatest gift of all, the ability to endure, to rise above, to find strength within themselves. In those dark moments, the humans turned to the Orishas for help. They offered their hearts, their prayers, and in return, the Orishas poured out their wisdom, their power, and their love. The Orishas taught the humans how to live in harmony with the earth, how to respect the forces of nature, how to honor the balance that had been created. And so, the world turned, and humanity grew. The Orishas continued to watch, to guide, and to protect. They were never far from their creations, for they were part of them. The Orishas lived in every human being's heart, in every drop of rain, in every gust of wind, and every heartbeat. The story of creation, told through the Orishas, is a story of love, sacrifice, and divine unity. It is a reminder that we are all connected to each other, to the earth, and to the gods who gave us life. The Orishas are not distant beings in the heavens, they are part of us, and we are part of them. We carry their strength, their love, and their wisdom with us always, for we are their children, and they are our parents, forever watching over us as we walk the earth. There was a time before time, when all that existed was nothing but a swirling, endless void. No land. No sky. No seas. The silence stretched on, vast and endless. But from this emptiness, something began to stir, a primal force that would soon give birth to the universe. It was not a gentle awakening. It was a collision of fire and ice, the coming together of the most ancient and powerful forces, where one being, Ymir, was born from the union of those chaotic elements. Ymir, a giant, formed from the cold, icy rivers of Niflheim and the fiery heat of Muspelheim. He was a creature of pure strength, towering and raw, embodying the very forces that shaped the cosmos. His body, though monstrous, was full of potential, for he would serve as the foundation of all that was to come. As Ymir slept, his body began to transform. From his sweat, the first beings were born, other giants, each one as wild and untamed as Ymir himself. They were creatures of destruction, each carrying with them the raw chaos of the world's creation. But the gods, who were still only whispers in the void, knew that something had to be done. They could not allow this primal force to rule unchecked. They could not let chaos reign forever. And so, from the depths of the void, three brothers, Odin, Vili, and Ve, emerged. They were born of the same divine seed, the children of the great primordial being, but they were different from Ymir. They were gods of order, gods of creation, and they saw the world not as a place of endless darkness, but as a place of potential, a place for life to flourish. The brothers came to Ymir, and they knew that they had to act quickly. Ymir was the source of chaos, and they would have to destroy him in order to bring forth life. The brothers rose up, and in a swift, violent strike, they killed Ymir. His massive body collapsed, and from the death of this great being came the birth of everything. His blood flooded the world, turning the seas into rivers and lakes. His flesh became the land, mountains, valleys, and plains. His bones turned into rocks and hills. His skull became the sky, and from his brains, the clouds took shape. But even in death, Ymir's body continued to live on, shaping the world, giving form to the land. The gods had not destroyed the world, but had shaped it, carved it from the remnants of Ymir's body. They had taken his raw, primal energy and turned it into something beautiful. They had created a world of possibility from the chaos. Odin and his brothers did not stop there. They created the first humans from two fallen trees, Ask and Embla. From these simple forms, they breathed life, and from their breath came the first spark of thought, the first pulse of life. The gods did not simply create a world, they created a place for beings like themselves, beings who could think, feel, and grow. This was not just a place of power and destruction, it was a place where creation could flourish. But even as the gods shaped the world, they knew that the darkness and chaos from which the world had been born would always linger. Ymir's blood would not fully disappear. It would always be there, lurking in the shadows, waiting to return. The gods could only hold back the chaos for so long. As the cosmos took shape, the brothers placed the stars in the sky and set the sun and moon on their courses. They created the winds, the forests, and the creatures of the earth. They carved out the oceans and gave them life. Every breath of wind, every drop of rain, was a reflection of the world they had created from Ymir's body. Even the smallest blade of grass was born from the remnants of the great giant. In this new world, humans would live and die, but the gods would watch over them. They would live by the laws of nature, governed by the cycles of life and death, the turning of the seasons, and the ever-present reminder that chaos and creation are forever intertwined. But the world was not without its dangers. From the blood of Ymir, the giants had also been born, and they were not the only ones who resided in the great, sprawling world. There were other forces, dark and powerful, lurking in the shadows. The gods knew that their work was far from done. Ymir's death had brought life, but life would not last without vigilance. The gods themselves were not immortal in the way humans might think. They, too, would face their end one day. But they would not go quietly. They would stand, battle, and fight. Just as they had fought Ymir in the beginning, they would fight to protect the world they had built from the forces of chaos that would one day seek to tear it down. And so, the brothers, Odin, Vili, and Ve, prepared for the battles to come. They knew that the world they had shaped was fragile, but it was also beautiful. It was full of life, full of possibility. and no matter what happened, they would continue to protect it, to ensure that creation would always have a place in the universe. The story of the creation of the cosmos, the shaping of the earth from the body of Ymir, is a story of sacrifice. It is a story of gods who gave everything to create a world of life and beauty, even as they knew that their work would never be finished. It is a reminder that from chaos comes creation, and from destruction comes rebirth. And it is a story of love, for the world, for life, and for the future that could one day be. The world begins in silence, not a peaceful one, but the unsettling kind, the silence of the void. No shapes, no sounds, only an endless expanse of chaos. In this primordial state, time has no meaning, and space is yet to find its boundaries. It is a place where nothing exists and everything is possible. Then, in the midst of this shapeless abyss, something stirs. It is not a sound or a light but a sense, a faint tremor of potential. The chaos begins to pulse, as if it has remembered its purpose, as if the darkness itself knows it must give birth to something greater. Creation does not come gently from this void. It is wrenched forth in a violent collision of forces, a battle between what can be and what must be. Darkness and light, fire and water, the raw, untamed forces of the universe crash against one another, their struggle giving rise to the first faint patterns of order. It is a painful process, like the cracking of a giant egg. Chaos is not a villain here, it is the soil from which existence will grow. As the elements clash, form begins to emerge. The first sparks of light carve pathways through the darkness, illuminating swirling masses of dust and fire. These fragments spiral and converge, creating the first stars, the first worlds. In the chaos, there is a beauty, a violent elegance that speaks of possibility. Patterns emerge, not because the chaos ceases to exist, but because it learns to coexist with the order it births. From the fiery collisions, land is formed. Vast, molten masses cool and harden, giving rise to mountains that stretch towards the heavens and valleys that whisper of the depths below. Water flows into the cracks, forming rivers, lakes, and seas that mirror the stars above. These waters, chaotic in their flow, carry life in their embrace, ready to nurture what is to come. But creation does not stop at the land and sky. The chaos, ever restless, moves on to shape the beings who will walk this world. It does not craft them with care but throws them into existence with reckless abandon. The first creatures rise from the churning seas, their forms both wondrous and terrifying. Some crawl onto the land, adapting to its harshness, while others soar into the sky, their wings cutting through the air as if they are reclaiming the chaos from which they were born. Yet, amidst all this turbulence, a strange order begins to take hold. The sun rises and sets, the tides ebb and flow, the seasons turn. The chaos, once all-consuming, now cradles this fragile order, allowing it to grow while still whispering of the endless potential that remains. It is a delicate balance, one that speaks to the heart of creation itself. The patterns of life, birth, growth, death, and rebirth are etched into the fabric of existence, woven from the threads of chaos. Even in the myths told by countless cultures, this dance between chaos and order is a recurring refrain. The stories speak of gods and giants, of cosmic eggs cracking open, of serpents coiled in the abyss. Each tale holds the same truth, that creation does not come from peace, but from struggle. It is in the chaos that creativity thrives, where possibilities clash and intertwine until something entirely new is born. The chaos is not an enemy. It is a muse, a force that pushes the boundaries of what can be imagined. Without it, there would be no mountains to climb, no seas to cross, no stars to wish upon. It is the chaos that reminds us that the world is vast and full of wonder, that even in the darkest voids, something extraordinary can emerge. And so, creation continues. It is not a single event, not a moment in time, but an ongoing symphony. The chaos has not been vanquished, it never could be. It lingers, waiting for the next opportunity to collide with order and create something new. The patterns of creation are not static, they are ever-changing, shifting with the tides of time. They are a testament to the power of chaos and the beauty that can emerge from its embrace. In every breath we take, in every sunset that paints the sky, and every star that burns brightly against the night, we see the echoes of that first chaotic dance. It is a reminder that from the most disordered beginnings, something extraordinary can arise. Chaos is not the end, it is the beginning, the spark that lights the fire of creation. In the silence before time began, there was nothing but a fragile shell, floating in an endless void. It pulsed faintly, a living promise wrapped in the unknown. Inside, the weight of creation itself stirred, waiting for the moment when it would break free. This was no ordinary shell, it was the cosmic egg, a cradle of everything that would ever be, trembling with the anticipation of life. The first crack was deafening. It wasn't a sound that could be heard, but one that could be felt, like the splitting of an ancient silence that had held the universe hostage. As the pieces of the egg fell away, the world was born, not in a whisper but in an explosion of light and sound and form. From the yolk of the egg came the sun, blazing with the fire of 1,000 stars. The white formed the heavens, vast and endless, while the fragments of the shell scattered to become the earth, rough and jagged yet brimming with potential. In other stories, it was not an egg but a tree, towering and eternal, its roots stretching deep into the darkness of the underworld and its branches touching the very stars. The tree stood at the center of existence, unshaken by time or tide. Each leaf shimmered with the life of 1,000 beings, and its bark whispered secrets older than the oldest gods. This tree was not just a part of the world, it was the world. It connected the heavens and the earth, the living and the dead, binding all things in a web of life and meaning. Both the egg and the tree are more than just symbols. They are the echoes of something deeply human, a need to understand where we come from and what holds us together. They speak of beginnings, but also of balance. The egg is fragile, a reminder of how delicate life is, how easily it can be broken or lost. The tree, in contrast, is steadfast and strong, its roots anchoring it while its branches reach for the infinite. In one tale, the egg cracked open to reveal not just the world, but the first beings. They emerged blinking into the light, their forms shaped by the chaos of creation. They were imperfect, flawed, but they carried within them the same spark that had shattered the egg in the first place, the spark of possibility. These beings became the gods, the architects of life, but they never forgot the egg that birthed them. It was a reminder that even the greatest of things come from the smallest beginnings. The tree, too, is often home to gods and spirits. In one story, a bird perched high in its branches, singing a song so beautiful it gave life to everything it touched. In another, a serpent coiled around its trunk, guarding the secrets hidden in its roots. The tree is both sanctuary and battlefield, a place where creation and destruction are eternally entwined. But the egg and the tree are not just about gods and myths, they are about us. They speak to the way we see the world and our place in it. The egg reminds us that life is a miracle, something precious and rare. It shows us that from even the most unassuming beginnings, greatness can arise. The tree, on the other hand, reminds us that we are all connected, that our lives are woven together like the roots and branches of an ancient oak. In some stories, the egg never cracks. It floats in the void, unbroken, its secrets forever locked away. These tales are haunting, filled with a sense of longing and loss. What might have been if the egg had opened? What worlds could have been born? These unbroken eggs are a testament to the fragility of creation, a reminder that not all beginnings find their way to fruition. The tree, too, is not always eternal. In some myths, it is cut down, its roots severed, its branches burned. Yet even in its destruction, there is hope. From the fallen tree, new life emerges, a sapling growing from the ashes, a reminder that even in endings, there are beginnings. The cosmic egg and the world tree are not just ancient symbols, they are timeless truths. They speak of the cycles of life, of creation and destruction, of fragility and strength. They remind us that the world is both a gift and a responsibility, something to be cherished and protected. And they show us that even in the darkest voids, even in the barren earth, there is always the potential for life, for growth, for something extraordinary. These stories are not just about the past, they are about the present, about the way we live and the choices we make. They remind us that we are part of something larger, something that began long before us and will continue long after we are gone. They tell us that we are not alone, that we are connected to the world and to each other in ways we can scarcely imagine. As the last fragment of the egg falls away, as the last leaf of the tree drifts to the ground, there is a silence, not an empty silence, but one filled with the promise of what comes next. In that silence, the world holds its breath, waiting for the next story to begin. The stars blinked silently above, cold and indifferent, as if their vast expanse could swallow the tiny spark of life flickering below. And yet, somewhere in the heart of the cosmos, there was a story where humans stood at the very center, not as mere spectators, but as the reason the stars themselves seemed to shine. In the endless tapestry of creation, this story whispered that humanity was not an accident or a footnote. It was the point. In one ancient tale, the gods toiled endlessly to shape a perfect world. They sculpted mountains and carved rivers, painted skies with the gold of dawn and the indigo of twilight. But as they stood back to admire their masterpiece, they felt an ache, a hollow emptiness they could not name. The world was beautiful, yet lifeless, like a symphony with no one to hear its notes. And so, they bent once more to the earth, their hands trembling with purpose, and fashioned humanity from clay, breath, and love. In that moment, the gods' creation found its meaning, and the universe exhaled in relief. Another myth tells of a being who existed before time, surrounded by darkness so thick it felt alive. This being, tired of the void, reached into itself and created the world. But it wasn't enough. The oceans churned, the forests thrived, and the winds howled, but the being still felt alone. From its own essence, it created humanity, giving them a piece of its own soul. These humans, fragile yet radiant, became mirrors reflecting the Creator's own longing and joy. Why are humans always at the center of these tales? Perhaps it's because the stories were not just told by us, but for us. They pulse with the need to understand why we are here, why we matter. They declare boldly that the world was made for us, not in arrogance, but in wonder. The rain falls so crops might grow, the sun rises to warm our faces, and the night sky stretches vast and infinite, inviting us to dream. In one creation story, a god stood before a barren wasteland. It saw nothing but dust and silence, a world devoid of color and life. It planted trees for shade, filled rivers for thirst, and made animals to roam the lands. But it still felt something was missing. In its solitude, it molded a figure from the earth, shaped it with care, and breathed into it the gift of spirit. As the figure's eyes fluttered open, the god smiled for the first time. It had created not just life, but a companion, someone who could look upon the world and see its beauty, who could feel the weight of existence and still find it meaningful. There's a peculiar intimacy in these stories, a sense that the universe bends toward humanity, cradling us like a mother holding her child. In some myths, humans are born from tears, their lives a mix of sorrow and hope. In others, they rise from ashes, resilient and bold, carrying the spark of creation in their veins. But in all of them, there is love, an unspoken acknowledgement that the world without humans would be incomplete. In a tale told by firelight, an old woman once said that the stars themselves were placed in the heavens so that humanity might have something to guide them in the dark. The moon waxed and waned to mark time, and the seasons shifted to ensure the earth's bounty never ceased. Each element of the cosmos was carefully arranged, not randomly scattered, because humanity needed it to be so. Even in stories where humans come as an afterthought, there's a poignancy that makes their role central. In one myth, the gods created the world for themselves, a place to roam and rule. But when they tired of their endless games, they decided to make humans, small, fragile beings who could worship them, who could make them feel needed. At first, the humans were nothing but servants, tending to the gods' every whim. But as time passed, the gods noticed something strange. These humans laughed, cried, and dreamed. They built cities and sang songs that even the gods couldn't ignore. Slowly, the gods realized they were no longer the center of their own creation. The humans had become its beating heart. There's something both humbling and extraordinary about these stories. They don't just place humanity at the center, they ask us to consider what that means. If the world was made for us, then what is our role in it? Are we caretakers, responsible for nurturing what the gods have given? Or are we creators ourselves, charged with shaping the world in our image? These questions linger like the final notes of a song, leaving us restless but inspired. In a quiet moment, someone might ask, why would the gods bother? The answer lies in the stories themselves. It's not that humanity is perfect or infallible. Far from it. These myths often show humans as flawed, prone to error and frailty. But perhaps that's the point. It's our imperfections that make us worthy of the stories, our struggles that give the world its meaning. There's a tale where God weeps over the mistakes of humanity, over their greed and their wars, their cruelty and their failures. Yet, even as the God grieves, it cannot help but smile at their kindness, their resilience, their capacity for love. They are my greatest creation, the God whispers, because they reflect not just my light, but my shadow. The rhythm of these stories is like a heartbeat, steady yet unpredictable. There are moments of quiet awe, where humanity gazes at the heavens and feels its smallness. And there are moments of fiery defiance, where humanity dares to challenge the very gods who created them. In both, there is a recognition that being at the center of creation is not a privilege, but a responsibility. Even as the myths vary, the theme remains the same. Humanity is not just part of the story, it is the story. The rain falls not just because it must, but because someone is there to feel it. The sun rises not just to light the world, but to warm the faces of those who look toward it with hope. These stories tell us that we matter, not because we are perfect, but because we are here. We are the spark in the darkness, the breath in the void, the reason the story keeps being told. The page turned, and the world cracked open. There was a void at first, silent, infinite, and waiting. Then, a single spark. A whispered word. Creation began, not in the heavens of ancient myth, but in the minds of storytellers. From the stillness of ink on paper, the universe surged into existence, teeming with gods, heroes, and the echoes of timeless creation myths. In the soft glow of a child's nightlight, a book lay open, its story breathing life into a young reader's imagination. The words described a godlike figure, shaping stars with a sweep of their hand and forging humanity from stardust and sorrow. The child's heart raced, not just from the adventure but from the realization that stories like this held something eternal, a resonance that reached across centuries to tug at the soul. Modern creators, whether authors, filmmakers, or game designers, wield a power once reserved for the divine. They craft worlds, populate them with beings of their design, and guide their fates. In their creations, the echoes of ancient deities linger. The all-powerful architects of worlds, the flawed but mighty beings whose choices shape destinies, these figures reflect not just the gods of old but the storytellers themselves. A writer sits in a quiet room, staring at a blank page. There's a flicker of doubt, the same uncertainty that gods might have felt before the first mountain rose or the first ocean roared. Then, the first word appears. It is hesitant, almost fragile, but it carries the weight of possibility. Soon, another word follows, and then another, until the page is alive. The writer is not just creating a story, they are channeling something primal, something that has always existed in the human spirit, the need to understand creation, to shape meaning from chaos. In a darkened theater, the opening scenes of a movie unfold. The camera pans across a desolate landscape, and then, like the first rays of dawn, a new world emerges. The audience is transfixed, watching as a creator deity, flawed and enigmatic, wrestles with the act of creation. The deity's struggles mirror humanity's own, our fears, our dreams, our relentless drive to make something that lasts. As the story unfolds, the lines between creator and creation blur, leaving the audience with goosebumps and an ache that lingers long after the credits roll. Video games, too, have become modern creation myths, inviting players to take on the roles of gods and shapers of worlds. A player stands on the edge of a digital cliff, looking out over a pixelated realm they have built from scratch. Every mountain, every tree, every shimmering lake exists because they willed it so. In this act of creation, the player feels a connection to something larger, an echo of the myths that first taught humanity what it meant to hold the power of a god. In these stories, creation is never simple. It's messy, unpredictable, and filled with consequences. A character in a novel discovers they have the power to shape reality, only to realize that every act of creation carries a price. A filmmaker's deity figure, torn between love and duty, creates a world that reflects their inner turmoil. These tales remind us that creation is not just an act of power, it is an act of vulnerability, of exposing one's soul to the unknown. Sometimes, the creators in these stories are not gods, but humans who dare to play God. In a modern novel, a scientist defies nature, bringing life to the lifeless, only to be haunted by the consequences. The story is thrilling, tragic, and eerily familiar, echoing the ancient myths of Prometheus and his stolen fire. Through such tales, we are reminded that creation is as much about responsibility as it is about wonder. The characters in these stories often grapple with questions that haunt their creators. Why create at all? Is it out of loneliness, a need to leave a mark, or something deeper and more ineffable? A television series introduces a being who crafts worlds out of love, but finds themselves consumed by the pain of watching their creations suffer. The audience feels the weight of the creator's choices, the heartbreak of giving life and watching it unfold in ways beyond control. Creation myths have always been about more than just beginnings. They are about the relationship between creator and creation, the bond that ties them together even as it pulls them apart. In a modern fantasy novel, a godlike figure watches as their world begins to crumble, powerless to stop it. The gods' anguish is palpable, their love for their creation as raw as any parent's for a child. The reader's heart aches, not just for the god, but for the fragile beauty of the world they've made. There is a strange paradox in these stories. They remind us of our smallness, of how fleeting and fragile we are in the grand scheme of things. And yet, they also remind us of our greatness. We are not just characters in someone else's story, we are creators in our own right. Every time we tell a story, paint a picture, or imagine a new world, we are participating in the act of creation that has defined humanity since the dawn of time. The lights flicker in a small room as a child writes their first story. It's simple, clumsy, but filled with wonder. They write about a god who creates a world, who breathes life into it and watches it grow. The child doesn't know about the ancient myths, the tales of gods and heroes that have been told for millennia. But in that moment, they are part of something timeless. They are a creator, just like the storytellers who came before them, just like the deities who shaped the heavens and the earth. These stories, whether ancient or modern, remind us of one undeniable truth: creation is an act of hope. It is the belief that from nothing, something beautiful can arise. It is the courage to face the void and fill it with light. And it is the understanding that in creating, we are not just shaping the world, we are shaping ourselves. A single hand reaches out in the darkness, trembling but determined, shaping something out of formless clay. It's not a god's hand, it's a reflection of humanity itself. In that hand is a mirror, and in that mirror, a spark that illuminates the archetype of the creator, buried deep in the collective unconscious. The creator is a figure born not of flesh but of thought, existing in the unseen layers of the mind. It is the one who dreams in shapes and colors, who speaks in whispers of becoming. Every myth, every story of creation, holds a piece of this figure, woven into its fabric like threads of light and shadow. The Creator is more than a god, it is an idea that lives within us all, a force that dares to reach into the void and bring forth life. In a quiet moment, a sculptor stands before a block of stone. It is cold and silent, yet it hums with potential. The Creator archetype stirs within, guiding the chisel, shaping beauty from resistance. The sculptor feels the pull of something ancient, a connection to the myths where gods and beings formed the world from nothingness. With every strike, there is a communion with that force, a dance between creation and destruction, an echo of something that has always been. The Creator archetype isn't confined to the divine. It moves in the heartbeat of an artist, in the rhythm of a writer's pen, in the melody of a composer's symphony. It is both the architect of the heavens and the child with crayons, sketching dreams on scraps of paper. It is a universal truth that within each of us, there is a spark that longs to shape the world, to create something enduring. This force is not without its shadows. For every light that creates, there is a darkness that destroys. A painter struggles against self-doubt, their canvas a battleground of hope and despair. A writer feels the weight of a blank page, the silence of untold stories bearing down like a storm. The creator is both the flame that burns brightly and the ash that lingers after. It is a cycle, relentless and eternal, but it is also where transformation begins. The myths remind us of this tension. In the stories of Prometheus, who stole fire to give humanity the power to create, there is pain as well as triumph. In the tale of the Gnostic demiurge, there is both the beauty of creation and the flaws that mar it. The creator is never perfect, never immune to struggle. It reflects the human experience, where creation is born not of ease, but of effort, of risk, of daring to bring something new into the world. There's a moment when the creator archetype becomes painfully human. A potter shapes a vessel with trembling hands, their breath shallow as the clay spins beneath their fingers. They are not a god, but they feel the weight of the divine, the longing to make something that will endure, to leave a mark on a fleeting world. In that moment, they embody the archetype fully, standing on the edge of possibility and reaching for the infinite. Jung spoke of archetypes as universal, as patterns that emerge across cultures and time. The creator is perhaps the most universal of all, because it is tied to the very essence of being alive. To create is to defy entropy, to say that life matters, that beauty and meaning can exist even in the face of chaos. It is a bold act, and it is one that every human being is capable of. Even children, in their innocence, reveal the creator within. They build towers from blocks, draw fantastical creatures, and weave stories with wide-eyed wonder. They are unafraid of failure, unburdened by the weight of perfection. They remind us that the act of creation is not about the outcome, but about the process, about the joy of bringing something into existence simply because it is possible. Creation is not always gentle. It can be fierce, even violent. A forest fire clears the way for new growth, a volcano erupts, reshaping the land. The creator archetype embraces this duality, the understanding that destruction is often a precursor to creation. A poet tears apart their verses to find the perfect rhythm, a composer discards entire movements to craft a single, transcendent melody. The creator knows that every act of making is also an act of letting go. But there is tenderness too, a quiet grace in the act of shaping. A mother sings to her unborn child, her voice weaving a world of safety and love. A carpenter sands the edge of a table, each stroke an expression of care. The creator moves in these moments, gentle and deliberate, crafting not just objects but connections, not just beauty but belonging. In the myths, the creator is often solitary, their work born of isolation. Yet in humanity, creation is rarely done alone. It is shared, passed from hand to hand, voice to voice. A story told by one person inspires another, who retells it in a new way, adding their own touch. This collective act of creation mirrors the interconnectedness of the human spirit, showing that while the creator may begin as one, it is completed by many. And yet, the creator is always reaching. For what? Perhaps for meaning, for understanding, for a way to bridge the gap between the finite and the infinite. A musician plays the last note of their symphony, and for a moment, there is silence. In that silence, something lingers, a connection, a resonance, a truth that cannot be put into words. It is the Creator's gift, and it is infinite. To create is to love, to give a piece of oneself to the world without knowing how it will be received. It is an act of courage, of vulnerability, of faith. It is the heartbeat of existence, the pulse that drives humanity forward. It is the creator archetype, alive in every story, every song, every fleeting moment where something new is born. It begins in darkness, vast, endless, unknowable. Not a shadow, for there is no light to cast it. It is a void, silent and infinite, holding within it the promise of everything. Then, a flash, a moment so brief it cannot be measured, so powerful it cannot be contained. In that instant, the cosmos awakens, and the story of existence begins. In the language of science, this is the Big Bang. But strip away the equations, the physics, and what remains is something astonishingly familiar, a creation myth. A tale of origins, of something emerging from nothing, of chaos giving way to order. It speaks not just to the universe, but to the very core of what it means to wonder, to seek, to question. It is humanity's modern genesis, told with tools of reason but driven by the same awe that has fueled myths for millennia. Creation myths and scientific theories, at first glance, might seem worlds apart, one shaped by belief, the other by evidence. But look closer, and the lines begin to blur. Both begin with a single question: how did it all begin? The answers may differ in detail, yet their essence is the same. They are stories of beginnings, of forces greater than ourselves, of an existence that refuses to be silent. Think of the myths. In many, there is chaos, a primordial soup of disorder from which life emerges. In Norse mythology, there is Ginnungagap, the yawning chasm. In Greek myths, there is chaos, a swirling mass of potential. And in science, there is the singularity, a point so dense, so hot, it defies comprehension. It is a modern echo of these ancient tales, a reminder that even the cold precision of science begins with something unexplainable, something almost magical. The parallels don't end there. Creation myths often speak of separation, of forces dividing to shape the world. The heavens are pulled from the earth, light from darkness, land from sea. Science tells a similar story, though in different terms. The Big Bang scatters matter across the cosmos, particles and antiparticles collide, stars ignite, and galaxies form. It is a symphony of creation, each note building on the last, as the universe takes shape. And what of humanity? In myths, we are central, a divine creation, shaped by gods, born of earth and breath. Science paints a humbler picture, tracing our origins to stardust and evolution. Yet even here, there is poetry. To know that the atoms in our bodies were forged in the hearts of stars is to feel a connection to the universe that is both humbling and profound. It is a reminder that we are not separate from creation but a part of it, as integral as the stars themselves. Philosophy, too, plays its part in this story. It asks the questions science cannot answer: why is there something rather than nothing? What is the purpose of existence? These questions echo the myths, with their tales of gods and purpose and meaning. They remind us that creation is not just a physical act, but a metaphysical one, tied to the deepest parts of our psyche. Consider the ancient Hindu concept of Brahman, the ultimate reality, from which all things emanate and to which all things return. It is not so different from the scientific idea of a universe that expands and contracts, a cycle of creation and destruction. Or the Tao in Chinese philosophy, the way that flows through all things, uniting opposites and creating balance. It speaks to a harmony that science too seeks to understand, a universe governed by laws yet filled with mystery. Even the language of science carries echoes of myth. The Big Bang, a term so evocative it conjures images of fireworks, of a cosmic celebration. Black holes, dark matter, quantum entanglement, they sound like the stuff of legend, and perhaps they are. For what is a myth but a way of making sense of the incomprehensible, of turning the infinite into a story we can hold in our hands? There is a moment in creation, whether in myth or science, that takes the breath away. It is the moment of realization, of understanding that everything we see, everything we are, comes from something beyond our grasp. For the Greeks, it was the birth of Gaia, the earth, solid and nurturing. For science, it is the moment particles coalesce into atoms, atoms into molecules, molecules into life. It is the same moment, told in different tongues, but it speaks the same truth: creation is wonder. And yet, there is more to this story. Myths often speak of creators, beings who shape the world with intention. Science has no such figure, it speaks instead of forces, of chance, of natural laws. But even here, there is a kind of reverence. To study these forces is to stand in awe of their power, to feel a connection to something vast and eternal. It is not so different from gazing at the stars and seeing the face of a god. The creator archetype, as described by Jung, finds its place here too. Whether we see it as a deity or as the spark of human curiosity, it is the force that drives us to seek, to understand, to create. It is why we tell stories, why we study the stars, why we ask questions that may never have answers. It is the part of us that refuses to accept nothingness, that insists on finding meaning, on shaping the void. Creation, then, is not just a moment but a process, ongoing and infinite. It is the stars forming in distant galaxies, the cells dividing in a growing organism, the thoughts sparking in a human mind. It is the myths we tell and the science we uncover, each a reflection of the other, each a testament to our need to understand the world and our place in it. In the end, creation myths and scientific theories are not so different. They are both expressions of wonder, of a longing to connect with something greater than ourselves. They remind us that we are part of a story that began long before us and will continue long after we are gone. It is a story written in the stars and in the myths, in the equations of physicists and the dreams of storytellers. It is the story of everything, and it is beautiful. The sky burns red as the horizon trembles, shadows stretching long and jagged across the earth. Time itself feels fractured, seconds dragging like lifetimes. Somewhere, a great silence begins to swell, a quiet so vast it threatens to swallow sound itself. This is not the end of a day, it is the end of everything. Or perhaps, the beginning of something new. In myths across cultures, the end is never truly an end. It is a crescendo, the breaking of a wave before the ocean pulls it back into its depths. Destruction is fierce, merciless, and yet, within it lies the promise of renewal. The phoenix rises from its ashes, the earth sprouts anew after a flood, and the stars are born from the collapse of ancient giants. The Norse spoke of Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. A final battle where the heavens are torn asunder, where fire consumes the world, and even the mightiest gods fall. Yet after the chaos, a green and fertile earth emerges, and life begins again. It's not just a story of destruction, it's a story of hope. It whispers that no matter how dark the night, dawn will come. Hindu texts describe pralaya, a cosmic dissolution where the universe is swallowed by the waters, only to be reborn from the lotus of Vishnu. In this endless cycle of creation and destruction, time itself seems to breathe, a constant inhaling and exhaling of existence. It's a rhythm that feels almost tangible, as if the universe itself dances to the beat of renewal. Other cultures weave similar threads into their tales. The Aztecs believed in the 5 suns, epics of creation and destruction. Each age ended with a cataclysm, jaguars, fire, floods, wind, and earthquakes. Yet with every end, the gods labored to create again, shaping a world that would endure for a while longer, as if challenging the inevitable. And what of the flood myths, found in so many traditions? From Noah's Ark to Utnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the waters rise to cleanse the world, sweeping away its flaws and sins. But always, the waters recede. Land appears. A dove brings an olive branch. Life endures. There's a raw beauty in the notion that even the greatest destruction serves as a precursor to something purer, something worth preserving. In every eschatological myth, there's a moment of pause, a breathless second where everything teeters on the edge. It's in this fragile balance that the human spirit finds itself. What will remain? What will be lost? These stories remind us that endings, no matter how absolute they seem, carry within them the seeds of beginnings. Even as fire consumes, it purifies. Even as waters engulf, they nurture. In the Maori tradition, Ringi and Papa, the Sky Father and Earth Mother, are separated, their union torn apart to bring light to the world. Yet the love between them persists, even in their sorrow. It is both a tragedy and a genesis. This duality mirrors the human condition, our struggles, our losses, and the beauty that often arises from them. The interplay between destruction and creation isn't limited to myth. It resonates in nature itself. A forest burns, its ashes enriching the soil for new growth. A star explodes, scattering the elements needed to form planets, oceans, and life. These cycles are a testament to resilience, to the idea that from the ruins, something new can always rise. Perhaps that's why these myths endure. They reflect a truth that transcends time and culture. Life is cyclical. Moments of despair are not the end, but part of a greater, unending pattern. It's a truth as comforting as it is humbling. The apocalyptic imagery found in the book of Revelation is a striking example. Trumpets sound, seals are broken, and the earth shakes under divine judgment. Yet, through this storm of chaos emerges a new heaven and a new earth, a promise that what is destroyed will be made whole once more. It's terrifying and hopeful in equal measure, a paradox that echoes the complexity of existence. Modern science offers its own version of these cycles. Stars collapse, black holes form, and yet galaxies continue to grow. The universe itself may one day contract in a big crunch or expand endlessly into a cold void, only for some unforeseen event to spark creation again. These ideas are as grand and awe-inspiring as any myth, touching that same primal need to understand the infinite. Humanity's fascination with the end speaks to more than just curiosity. It speaks to fear, to hope, and to the deep-seated belief that destruction is not meaningless. Even in the face of extinction, there's an unyielding faith that someone, will carry forward. It's the reason we tell stories, why we record our histories, why we plant trees we may never see grow. The Mayan long count calendar, often misunderstood as a prediction of apocalypse, is another reflection of this cyclical view. It marks the end of one era and the beginning of another. Change is inevitable, it seems to say, but it is never final. The act of creation, then, is not separate from destruction but intertwined with it. In the ashes of a dying star, in the wreckage of fallen civilizations, in the silent stillness after a storm, there is always the faint hum of renewal. It is a hum that vibrates through myths, through science, through the very fabric of existence. Standing at the edge of what we know, peering into the unknown, there is a quiet wonder that takes hold. Myths remind us that the end is not something to be feared but understood. It is a necessary part of the whole, a transition rather than a termination. And in that understanding, there is beauty, fierce, unrelenting, and eternal. In the flickering glow of a fire, long before the first words were written, a storyteller wove tales of the world's beginnings. The audience listened with wide eyes, their shadows trembling on the cave walls. Each crackle of the fire seemed to echo the breath of the universe itself, a rhythm that matched the beating of their hearts. Those ancient stories weren't just explanations, they were lifelines, connecting the people to the cosmos, to their ancestors, and to the divine. As the centuries passed, the tales changed. The firelight gave way to temples and scrolls, to books and sermons, to screens and voices carried across the world. Yet the core of the stories endured, the yearning to understand where it all began, and what it meant to exist. Creation myths aren't static relics. They move like rivers, carving through the landscapes of time and culture, reshaping themselves to fit the contours of human experience. In the beginning, many spoke of gods and primordial chaos, of divine beings sculpting the world with hands of power and tenderness. But as the centuries rolled on, the gods began to look more like the people who worshipped them. In the heart of Mesopotamia, the Enuma Elish spoke of Marduk splitting the body of Tiamat, shaping the heavens and earth from her remains. The tale was one of order triumphing over chaos, reflecting a society deeply reliant on the taming of rivers and the establishment of law. It mirrored their lives, their struggles, and their victories. Thousands of years later, in the midst of scientific revolutions, the creation stories of ancient gods found themselves paralleled by theories of cosmic explosions and evolutionary branching. The myths didn't vanish, they adapted. Suddenly, the fiery breath of a deity could be likened to the force of the Big Bang, and the careful crafting of humanity by divine hands resonated with the intricacies of DNA weaving life. Cultural shifts bring new questions and fresh fears, and myths rise to meet them. The Industrial Revolution painted creation with the hues of machinery, as if the world itself were a grand clockwork set into motion by an unseen creator. The digital age brings new metaphors, where creation seems almost code-like, programmable, infinite, and yet intangible. Each time humanity changes, the myths adapt. They absorb the new while honoring the old, like a tapestry being rewoven with threads of different colors. During times of colonization, creation myths often served as a battleground. Indigenous stories, rich with wisdom and rooted in nature, were pushed aside, yet they endured in whispers, in traditions, and in the hearts of those who carried them. Today, many of these stories are resurging, reclaiming their place and reminding the world of their timeless relevance. In the myths of the Dogon people of West Africa, creation is tied to the cosmos, to the stars, and to the intricate rhythms of life. These stories persisted through colonization, surviving in fragments and songs, holding their ground against efforts to erase them. Now they breathe anew, influencing art, science fiction, and even modern cosmology. Creation myths also evolve when they cross borders. The Greek stories of Gaia and Uranus fused with Roman interpretations, transforming into something both familiar and new. The Hindu concepts of cycles and recreation found echoes in Buddhist texts, traveling across Asia and shaping entire civilizations. Each retelling, each adaptation, brought a fresh perspective, allowing the myths to grow rather than fade. In modern storytelling, creation myths have found a new home. Writers and filmmakers draw from ancient wells, blending old themes with contemporary sensibilities. The gods of Asgard walk alongside superheroes, cosmic eggs appear in speculative fiction, and humanity's quest for origins becomes the heart of science fiction sagas. These retellings breathe new life into the old stories, ensuring that they remain alive in the collective imagination. Creation myths are mirrors, reflecting not just the cosmos but the people who tell them. As humanity evolves, so too does its understanding of beginnings. What remains constant is the ache for connection, the need to feel part of something vast and meaningful. Whether spoken in the hush of ancient temples, written in ink on parchment, or projected on a screen in brilliant color, the myths continue to speak to that ache. In a way, creation myths are like seeds. They are planted in the fertile soil of human thought, growing into great trees that shade and shelter countless generations. But as the seasons change, the trees drop new seeds, and the cycle begins again. The story never ends, it only transforms, just as it always has. In the quiet moments when the world feels too vast, when stars seem like distant memories and the wind carries whispers of questions too big to answer, humanity has always turned to the creators. Not just to the myths, but to the essence of those who breathed life into the cosmos. The creator deities, these figures who once shaped the heavens and the earth, still linger in the spaces between faith, morality, and identity. A child sits on the floor, their hands full of clay, trying to mold something recognizable. With each curve, each press, they create. Nearby, a parent watches, their own hands aching with the memory of shaping a life that grows before them. In these simple acts, the echoes of creator deities resonate. The stories may feel ancient, but their meaning breathes in every moment of creation, of a potter at their wheel, of a farmer planting seeds, of someone daring to hope. The gods of creation, those who wielded their might or their wisdom to call life into being, were never distant figures. They were deeply human, yet impossibly vast. They embodied what it meant to care and to destroy, to nurture and to challenge. Their hands, whether metaphorical or divine, sculpted not only the world but the moral compass of those who followed them. What does it mean to create? To give form to the formless? The creator deities answer this, not with commandments but with presence. They are the silent guides, the unseen architects of how humanity understands right and wrong. To create is to take responsibility, to understand that shaping something also means giving it the power to shape others. In the myths of the Abrahamic traditions, God's act of creation was accompanied by a profound declaration, "It was good." That affirmation ripples through time, a reminder of the inherent value in existence itself. In Hindu cosmology, the balance of Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer teaches that creation is not static, it demands motion, change, and renewal. These ideas shape not just how people see the world, but how they see themselves within it. Morality, for many, stems from these acts of creation. If humanity is formed in the image of a creator, what does that mean for how we live? In the likeness of these deities, people find purpose, not in blind obedience, but in the pursuit of creation in their own lives. To build relationships, to foster kindness, to strive for justice, these acts become echoes of the divine. Yet, These stories are not without their shadows. Many creator deities carry the weight of paradox. They are kind and cruel, tender and terrifying. Odin, after shaping the world with his brothers, hung himself from Yggdrasil, sacrificing himself to gain knowledge. This complexity mirrors the human condition. It reminds us that to create is to risk, to sacrifice, and to hold a mirror to ourselves. In spirituality, these deities offer not just answers, but comfort. They anchor people in the storms of existence. For those seeking meaning, they provide a narrative, a way to see the chaos of life as something that can be shaped, understood, and even cherished. It's not about certainty, but about the beauty of seeking. Identity, too, is molded in their image. Cultures and individuals look to these figures and find reflections of themselves. In African Yoruba traditions, Olajimere and the Orishas hold the roots of entire communities, their stories woven into the identity of nations. In Maori mythology, the separation of Ringi and Papa, the Sky Father and Earth Mother, speaks to the intimate connection between people and the land they inhabit. For some, these deities inspire rebellion. They ask, what if we, too, can be creators? What if the divine spark resides in us? This question has fueled revolutions of thought and action. It has driven artists, scientists, and philosophers to break boundaries, to redefine what it means to create and to exist. In modern times, these figures adapt, their relevance reframed. They are no longer confined to temples and scriptures, they live in novels, films, and even memes. They shape conversations about ethics, purpose, and the future. They are invoked not just in prayer but in activism, in art, in moments of quiet reflection. Even in secular spaces, the influence of creator deities persists. A physicist studying the cosmos might not call upon a god, but the act of looking into the infinite and asking how carries the same awe. The poet crafting verses, the teacher shaping young minds, the activist envisioning a better world, all are part of this ongoing act of creation. The relevance of creator deities is not confined to any single belief or culture. It lies in the universal truth that to exist is to create. Whether one sees their hand in the stars or in the soil, their presence lingers, reminding us that creation is both a gift and a responsibility. In their stories, humanity finds not just origins, but a call to action, to shape the world, to hold it with care, and to never stop asking what it means to create. In the stillness of an ancient night, under the endless sweep of stars, a mother hums softly, her voice carrying a lullaby older than memory. Her hands, withered but strong, weave a pattern, thread over thread, life over life. There is power in her song, a quiet authority that echoes the essence of creation itself. From her hands and her heart, something eternal is born. Women have always been creators, not only of life but of worlds, of meaning, and of myths that pulse with the rhythm of existence. When creation myths speak of goddesses, the stories change. They carry a depth often overlooked, a tenderness interwoven with ferocity. In these tales, the act of creating is not merely an assertion of power but a deeply personal and sacrificial act. Women are creators who birth the cosmos from their own being, who nurture and protect even as they shape and transform. Their stories are whispered in forgotten corners of mythology and shouted in the bloodlines of cultures that remember them not only as givers of life, but as the very essence of the divine. Gaia emerges, her form vast and unyielding, the earth itself. She is no mere figure, but a presence that breathes and grows, her veins the rivers, her bones the mountains. She does not create in isolation, her children rise from her, clawing their way into being. Some rebel, some worship, but all carry her mark. She is the mother who gives unconditionally and yet bears the scars of betrayal. Her story is not one of triumph, but of resilience, the enduring truth of a creator who cannot be unmade. In the myths of Mesopotamia, Tiamat is both terrifying and beautiful. She births the gods, but is not content to be silent or subservient. When chaos threatens her world, she does not cower. Instead, she becomes the storm. She battles not as a destroyer but as a creator who understands that life and chaos are intertwined. Her defiance, her roar as she faces her children, is a cry that has never faded. It speaks of the complexity of creation, of love that is fierce, of protection that is unyielding, of a strength that cannot be extinguished. The Maori goddess Hainu-Iti-Ipa watches over the threshold of life and death. Once Haintaitama, the Dawn Maiden, she fled to the underworld upon learning of her father's betrayal. Her act was not one of retreat but of transformation. As Hainu-Iti-Ipa, she became a guardian, holding humanity in her care as they pass from life to death. Her story is one of courage, the courage to become something new, to bear the unbearable and still protect. She teaches that creation is not always about beginnings, but also about endings, about the cycles that give meaning to existence. In Africa, Ashen dances. Her movements are the rivers flowing, her laughter the warmth of the sun. She is love and beauty, but beneath her softness lies a fire that cannot be quenched. Ashen is not only a giver of life, but a reminder of its fragility. When her gifts are spurned, when her creations are threatened, she fights, not with brute force, but with the power of her spirit. Her tears have shaped lands, her joy has brought abundance. To know Ashen is to know that creation is joy, sorrow, and everything in between. And then there is the Hindu goddess Shakti, the primordial energy that fuels all creation. She is not separate from the world but its very essence. As Parvati, Durga, Kali, she wears many faces, each a reflection of the universe's endless facets. She creates not only life but purpose, not only forms but meanings. Shakti reminds us that creation is not a single act but a continuous flow, an eternal dance of energy that neither begins nor ends. These goddesses are not passive figures, they are active, dynamic forces. They do not simply create, they care, protect, destroy, and rebuild. Their stories remind us that creation is not always gentle, it can be painful, demanding, and even violent. Yet, through it all, they endure. They are not just creators of the world but of themselves, constantly transforming, growing, adapting. In the quiet moments of life, their presence is felt. In the hands of a woman braiding her child's hair, in the laughter shared across generations, in the tears shed for love lost and found again, they are there. Their myths may be ancient, but their essence is alive, pulsing in the heartbeat of humanity. When the world forgets the stories of women as creators, it loses something profound. It loses the understanding that creation is not confined to acts of power or domination. It is an act of love, of sacrifice, of relentless hope. It is a reminder that to create is to give a part of oneself, to pour life into something that will grow beyond you, that will carry your essence even as it becomes its own. The myths of women as creators are not just stories. They are truths wrapped in symbols, truths that speak to the soul. They tell us that creation is not about perfection but about perseverance, about the willingness to begin even when the outcome is uncertain. They teach us that the act of creating is sacred, not because it is divine, but because it is human. In every culture, and every time, these stories have been told. Sometimes they are whispered, hidden beneath layers of other myths. Sometimes they are celebrated, carried proudly as banners of identity and pride. But always, they endure. Because creation, true creation, is eternal. It is the heartbeat of the universe, the song that never fades, the essence of what it means to be alive. And at its center, standing quietly or roaring fiercely, are the women who shaped it all. The sky had been dark for what felt like an eternity. Then, with a crack, a light sliced through the heavens. From the light came the first stirrings of life. But it wasn't just a god who had forged this new world. The air hummed with a sense of partnership, as though the stars themselves knew that creation was never the work of one. It was always meant to be shared. Humanity's place in the grand design of creation was never meant to be passive. We weren't just given life and left to wander, mere pawns in a cosmic game. The gods didn't create the world, then retreat into their heavens. They reached down with outstretched hands, inviting us to join them in the act of making something new. Our hands, just as divine as theirs, grasped the earth, the stars, the very fabric of existence itself. In the ancient Sumerian myth of the creation of humanity, the gods were tasked with building a world of peace and abundance. But they were exhausted. The work was too much. It was then that the great god Enki and his sister Ninhursag decided to share the burden. They created humans to tend the earth, to harvest the crops, to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. Yet the story was never just about labor. It was about the partnership that formed between gods and humans. The gods gave life, but humans gave the earth their care, their sweat, and their hearts. The land thrived because of the bond between the divine and the mortal, a bond that grew stronger with each passing season. In the stories of the Native American peoples, particularly the Pueblo and Hopi, the act of creation was a joint effort. The gods, having formed the earth, called upon humans to help shape it further. The first humans were not born into a ready-made world. They were born into a raw landscape, full of potential but still wild. The gods shared with them the sacred knowledge of how to plant, how to hunt, how to build. They gave the people the gift of speech, of thought, of imagination. But it was the people who took this knowledge and molded it, carving cities from the wilderness and planting crops that would sustain them through the harshest winters. The gods did not stand aloof from humanity. They walked beside them, guiding but never taking the reins. This co-creation wasn't about control, it was about shared responsibility, about a mutual effort to shape the future. In the African creation myth of the Dogon people, there's a story about Amma, the supreme god who created the earth from the seeds of the stars. But Amma did not create the world alone. He called upon Namo, the first living being, who was both god and ancestor. Together, they brought the world into being. But it didn't stop there. The Dogon people believed that human beings must continue this work of creation. They are partners in the divine effort, entrusted with the care of the earth, the land, and the sky. Creation, in this myth, is an ongoing process, a partnership between the gods and humanity that never ends. Humans are not isolated, they are integrally woven into the fabric of the cosmos. They are co-creators, not just caretakers. The Greek myth of Prometheus offers another view of humanity's role in creation. Unlike the other gods who fashioned the world, Prometheus took it a step further. He didn't just mold humanity from clay, he breathed life into them, gifting them with fire, the very thing that would allow them to shape the world. He didn't do this in secret. He gave the fire freely, with a heart full of love for his creations. The gods may have given life, but it was humanity's spark, literally, that brought the world into focus. Without that fire, there would be no art, no invention, no progress. Prometheus' act wasn't just about defiance of the gods, it was about partnership. It was a reminder that, even in the grand sweep of the universe, humanity was given a role, a responsibility, and a gift that was to be used in collaboration with the divine. The Hindu story of Vishnu and the churning of the ocean is another illustration of this eternal partnership. Vishnu, in his many forms, guides the gods and demons as they churn the ocean to obtain the nectar of immortality. But it is not a battle. It is a shared effort. The churning process requires both the gods and the demons to work together, to pull on the great serpent that coils through the sea. Both sides struggle, both sides push, and together they achieve the impossible. Vishnu, as the eternal observer and guide, ensures that both sides are needed, that neither is more important than the other. This myth shows that creation is not about one side having all the power. It is about equality, about each being having a role to play in the grand scheme. Even in modern interpretations, the theme of co-creation is not lost. In literature and film, we often see stories of gods and humans working together to save worlds, to bring about change, or to understand the deeper mysteries of the universe. These stories remind us that creation isn't a solitary act, it is a bond, a partnership that crosses boundaries and defies categories. Gods may have the power to give life, but humanity has the heart to shape it. Co-creation speaks to a truth that transcends myth. It is the belief that we, as human beings, are not separate from the cosmos. We are not passive observers of life, we are active participants in the unfolding of the universe. The idea that we were put here to simply be is a misconception. We are here to shape, to create, and to be in relationship with the world around us. Just as the gods do not work in isolation, neither do we. Creation is an act of collaboration between us, the earth, the stars, and the divine. At the core of all these myths lies a powerful message: creation is not the work of one. It is the work of many, each contributing their gifts, their wisdom, and their energy to bring the world into being. Whether it's the fire given by Prometheus, the earth shaped by the gods and humans together, or the cosmic dance between Vishnu and the churning ocean, each creation story echoes the same truth: humanity and the divine are partners in this vast and endless act of becoming. It's a quiet morning, and the world is still. You can feel the weight of silence pressing in, as if time itself is holding its breath. The sun rises slowly, casting golden light over the earth, and with it comes a sense of awakening. There is something almost sacred in this moment, as if the very act of creation is happening again, right before your eyes. Every sunrise is a new beginning, but at the same time, it's an ancient continuation. This is the paradox of creation: it never stops. It's both a beginning and an endless cycle, always moving, always evolving. Creation is not a singular event, it is a rhythm that never ends. Imagine the first spark of life, a single burst of energy that gave birth to everything we know, and yet, that spark is not gone. It flickers in the heart of every moment. The earth spins in a constant state of birth and death, of growth and decay, as if creation itself refuses to be bound by time. It pulses with the energy of something that doesn't simply exist, but becomes, endlessly, in a cycle that is as old as the stars. The philosopher Heraclitus once said, "You cannot step into the same river twice." The waters keep flowing, keep changing, and yet, it is the same river. The world is like that, forever moving, forever changing, but never truly the same. Every moment of creation is both new and ancient, both a beginning and a continuation. In every moment, there is an echo of what came before, and yet, there is something new being born, too. There are moments when we feel as if we are standing at the center of the universe, watching everything unfold. But what if those moments are not just rare glimpses of clarity, but an expression of the very nature of creation itself? Creation is not just about what began in the past. It's not just about the myths we tell or the stories we weave. It's about this constant unfolding, an eternal dance between life and death, light and dark, being and non-being. Consider the stars. They burn for millions of years, their light illuminating the darkness, only to collapse and die, giving way to new stars, new galaxies. Their death is not an end, but a transformation, an opportunity for something new to take shape. The universe does not simply exist, it creates, destroys, and recreates itself. It is a cycle of eternal return, where every ending is just another step in the process of becoming. What we call death is just another form of creation, new possibilities rising from the ashes of the old. The same truth is reflected in the lives of individuals. Each of us is born, we live, we die, but our essence doesn't vanish. It is reborn in the hearts of those we leave behind, and the memories we have made, and the changes we've set into motion. Creation is not confined to the physical, it reaches deep into the fabric of our souls, our relationships, our histories. It is the legacy we create with every action, every word, every choice. We are not static beings, we are constantly creating and recreating ourselves, evolving, learning, growing. In the vastness of the cosmos, it is easy to feel small, insignificant. But the truth is, we are part of this endless cycle. We are born of stardust, and as we return to the earth, our bodies will feed the soil, which will nurture new life. We are bound in a dance with the universe, constantly creating, always being created. This is not a cycle we can control, nor one we can escape. It is the rhythm of existence itself. We can fight it, deny it, or pretend it isn't happening, but it continues, whether we understand it or not. Creation is not an event that happened once in the distant past. It is an ongoing process that unfolds every second of every day. The universe is constantly expanding, constantly finding new ways to create. The birth of a new star in the farthest reaches of space is no different from the birth of a child, or the beginning of a new idea in the human mind. The potential for creation is endless, and it exists in every moment, in every person, in every breath. Even in the quietest moments, creation is still happening. You may not see it, but it is there, hidden in the spaces between thoughts, in the moments of stillness, and the flickering of the light as it passes through the leaves of a tree. This is what makes creation so beautiful. It is both the grand and the mundane, the cosmic and the intimate. The moments when we pause, when we breathe, when we simply exist, are just as much a part of the process as the boldest acts of creation. Think of the times when you've looked up at the sky, at the stars, and felt that sense of awe and wonder. Those stars, millions of light years away, are not just distant lights, they are symbols of the eternal nature of creation. They are constant reminders that creation is not a one-time event. It's a process that continues, even when we can't see it. Every time we gaze at the night sky, we are looking at the past, but also at the future, at the endless potential for creation that exists in the universe and in our own hearts. Creation is not just about what is made. It's about what is always becoming. It's not just about the past or the present, but the way those moments ripple out into the future, creating new possibilities, new beginnings. Each moment is a spark, a chance for something to be born, something to grow. The story of creation is a never-ending story, told and retold, in the flicker of light, in the rhythm of the seasons, in the pulse of the earth beneath our feet. It is a story that can never truly be finished because, in its very nature, it is eternal. And so, in the quiet moments of your life, when the world seems still and time seems to stand still, remember that creation is still happening. It is happening inside you, inside every living thing, and in the very spaces between the stars. The act of creation doesn't stop, it is endless, it is eternal, and it is what binds us all together.